Epstein. Can we say Epstein the musical? Epstein the sequel? Epstein 2 Electric... Whoa, we can't say that word on YouTube. But yes, if you have not been paying attention to the news, and, well, as depressing as it is, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. The topic on everybody's lips for the last... Well, okay, the topic on everybody's lips for the last 2 months has been Epstein, but for the last 7 days it's been whether or not the Donald was going to release the files and whether or not he was going to be in them. So we're going to talk about the vote that just happened. We're going to talk a little bit about the emails that were, quote, leaked not that long ago, because that wound up being an entire bullcrap story too. But we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk a lot about Epstein, and I'm really hoping that the Rumble chat gets maybe just a little bit more love this time through, because, well, there are certain entities in the Levant that a lot of people are convinced are involved in that story that you probably can't mention on YouTube without losing your YouTube account. So just keep that in mind as you chat. I do love to see your chats and everything everything we do, and I hope to see some of that, but we're going to talk about that when we talk about the Epstein files. In other news, the ACA may be getting replaced. We actually have some ideas off of this, some possible theories. I don't know how they are going to work in practice, but we're going to talk about them to see if maybe we can figure out together in chat how they're all going to go work in practice. So we'll talk about that, what's happening there, and where we go with that. Another part of the education department gets dismantled. We'll talk about what this means going forward for the education of our country, and the totally successful programs like All Children Left Behind from the past and what they've meant for our larger educational system. And a federal judge says that Texas's new maps cannot take hold. And we're going to talk about what this means for California, since they put an entire constitutional amendment on their ballot based on what Texas was doing, and they promised us that whole thing was going to go away as soon as the election was over, and all they were doing was trying to counter Texas. But we'll talk about that, what's going on with that, and where we go from there. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary. So find some friends, strap yourselves in, and just remember that a certain financier from New York did not self-delete a whole bunch of words that we can't actually say on YouTube. And we will see you on the other side of the break. And when you step inside and you don't see too many faces, coming out of the rain, you hear that jazz go down. Competition in other places, but the horns are blowing that sound. I am J. Edgar, and this is Contemporary. The Streets of Rage. Transition. The Streets of Rage had probably one of the better soundtracks out there. You hear that music, you keep in the groove, and it makes you want to get up and do stuff. Maybe go beat up a bunch of thugs in the street to go take back your streets. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Good morning. Hi. My name is J. Edgar. This is Contemporary. We are going to talk about Epstein. Because who didn't think we were actually going to talk about Epstein? It's been on everybody's mind. It's been the center of the news. Well, of course, everybody's working together and doing backroom stuff to try to get other stuff crammed through. That's always the fun part, too. When you get something like this Epstein story, and the mainstream media ignores everything else that's going on. A lot of the ACA stuff that we're doing right now is not getting anywhere close to the amount of attention that it would otherwise, because, sleight of hand, Burt Reynolds pretending to be J.D. Hogg, which I still don't understand that casting choice, because Burt Reynolds is tall, sleek, and suave, and the original J.D. Hogg was like 5'1" and a little chunk. But regardless of that, Burt Reynolds as Boss Hogg said it best. Sleight of hand. While you're paying attention to this hand over here, this one's doing something off in the background. Don't you know that you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day? But yeah, we're going to talk about Epstein. We're going to talk about Fetterman. We're going to talk about the Marjorie Taylor Greene feud, because apparently that's a thing that we do now. I might get to say the F you I was right part out loud as I spin around in my chair and completely copy somebody I've dressed up as for Halloween before, because, hey, I've been telling you about this woman since she got into Congress. And I've never trusted this woman. I got blocked by cat crap because I don't trust this woman. And now, because the evil orange man said that he doesn't trust her either, swaths of her people, of his people rather, are sitting out here saying, oh, well, we always thought that Marjorie Taylor Greene was bad. No, you did not, folks. I've argued vociferously with numerous of you who told me that she was the third coming of Christ right after Donald Trump, who would have been the second coming. So I'm going to take that win right now. Thank you very much, you folks. And we'll talk about that as we go. ACA, like I said, is going to be a bigger story. Education Department, I feel like if the Epstein files weren't sitting in here, would have been a bigger story. Cloudflare was actually down for a while, which took out X. And they say that it was just a little glitch on their side of it, but given the fact that Amazon Web Services was just down and Azure was just down within 3 weeks of each other, that tells me that no, there's something else going on here. So we will talk about that. And we're going to talk about property taxes too. Those funny little things that we have going on every year. So got a lot of stuff to go over here today. I got some cool stuff on things I like, things that I hate. We'll talk about the rules of acquisition. A nice cultural segment for things I like today too. It's going to be fun. I don't think the stack is overly saturated today. I have added a couple things since we got started here, but it wasn't bad this morning. So we're going to try not to spend all morning on this, because I got other stuff that could definitely be being done today. So let's get through it. Let's get started, shall we? Before we do, make sure you guys go check out Crime Land with Katie Zed, Booze and Body Cams with Katie Zed as well. One of the sister channels, somebody I used to work with actually, right here on this webcam, Katie Zed, who co-hosted famously Ed Zed Redemption, my third iteration at a co-hosted once a week evening news commentary show. That was when we were still doing contemporary, and yeah, definitely somebody who you should go and check out. Somebody who I've been in the home of, somebody who at some point should be in my home. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, go check her out. Go check out that YouTube channel if you like crime stuff. I know the body cam stuff is fun, so go and check that out. Anyway, we got to get started. So let's do just that. Let's get the Rumble chat up here. Because again, as I mentioned on the Discord, I am very much hoping that if the people who think that Epstein's entire thing was because he had ties to a government intelligence agency of a certain nation in the Levant, I hope they leave that stuff on Rumble, because yeah, I can definitely see where the YouTube and the Twitch might look askance to that kind of stuff. So there's that. Alright, let's get started. Let's do this crap. Oh, one other note of this here. The promise stays good. My oldest daughter has a ukulele, a frozen ukulele with Anna and Elsa on it. And if I can get 20 concurrent subscribers at the same time on Twitch, 20, we're at 2 right now, Deca and Palm. If I can have that number hit 20 in a 30-day period, then I am going to pick up that ukulele, learn how to play that, and play it live on air. I don't care how emasculating it is. I will do a lot of things for money. So yes, I will play a little ukulele with Anna and Elsa on it on air. Because I don't care that much. I think it'd be funny anyway. I'm going to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow, the Hawaiian version. I like that. By the way, in chat, I see Palm is dominating on the chat here, but, oh. Hey, it looks like we had a kick person in here who needs just a little bit of a timeout, I think. Would you like many viewers? Let's make you popular. Should we click on the link? I think we should click on the link. What do you think? No, we're not going to click on the link. You're going to get about 5 minutes to go think about what you did. And if you want to chat something that isn't robotic, then we'd love to have your commentary. But if you're just going to throw up links and stuff like that, then you get to sit quiet for 5 minutes. They have AI chat moderation. Well, AI is coming in and doing the link stuff. That's a certain irony. But I was going to say, too, on the top of it, I used a Dire Straits song quote to open up the show, and I see that we've got Money for Nothing and Tricks for Free in the chat. Tricks for Free, welcome in. I have seen that name here before, so welcome back. It's been a while. But yeah, alright, let's do this. Let's get started. I don't know why that keeps coming up on the other side. Oh, I do know, because I changed my monitor setup. I am working on getting 4 1080p actual legit computer monitors up across my setup. Right now I have 1 1080p monitor and 2 768p TVs that are sitting and holding up this stream. So we got a 3 screen setup right now. I like to go 4 screens. And I've been looking at eBay because I don't mind getting stuff used. I don't. The cost of everything is outrageous right now, so there's that goes with it too. So just a thing. If you guys know something or see something on eBay that you think you should pick up, 24 inches what I'm trying to keep the setup as, we'll get it set up on the desk. Alright, let's get started. I said that already once. Let's actually get started here. And we're going to start today with our finance. Our finance has been a bit of a mess, and we're actually, from last week, we're down because we were talking about record highs last week, and we're down about 2,000 points on the Dow, but opening up with a 600-point jump on this, 46,741.31 points on the Dow, which means that we've had, especially if we take this out about 5 days, we had a rough few weeks since we talked last, or a rough few days rather since we talked last. And it looks like it's coming back up on the upswing. Let's go ahead and let's grab IBD. Let's talk about what's going on here this morning, shall we? From Investors Business Daily. Stock market today, Dow rallies 600 points as Nvidia surges on earnings. Jobs report surprises. This is a live updater, so we'll talk about what's going on here. Let's get the Rumble chat up here again, because our fans of our friends in the Levant, I want to make sure that I'm reading from them, if need be. Major earnings victory for AI giant Nvidia helped fuel rallies for the Dow Jones Industrial Average and other major stock indices on Thursday. Wall Street also got a lift on the stock market today from a long-delayed September jobs report that came out way better than expected. After the opening bell, Dow rallied 1.4%, or more than 600 points. While the S&P moved up 1.7%, the tech-heavy NASDAQ composite gained 1.9% in morning trading. The 10-year yield ticked lower to 4.11%. Oil prices rose, which is actually a little bit weird to me because we were just actually commenting, and there's one place that we passed that we saw 254 yesterday. And if I see the words oil prices rose on the screen, Palm, we might need to go make a road trip after we get off a stream, because we might want to take advantage of that. Among the ETFs, Invesco QQQ Trust was up 1.8%. Also, the SPDR S&P 500 ETF rose 1.6% after Thursday's market open. Among the NASDAQ 100 stocks, Palantir Technologies, which is Peter Thiel's endeavor. Those of you who are appreciating the latest season of South Park know the name Peter Thiel. He does know about the Antichrist, just so you know. I still want to make my one-off video and talk about this new season because, and I understand why, because there's a religious fervor around their deity for their president, but the MAGA people got that entirely wrong when they sat back and said that it needs to come off the air. And on the first couple episodes with Trump in them, I actually probably would have gone the same direction that the MAGA people did, saying, oh, well, they won't touch Democrats and they'll only touch Republicans. Dude, watch the rest of the season. That's not what they're not commenting on Trump. I can tell you that just from watching what they're doing. And it's actually a pretty good commentary. Alright, AppLovin jumped more than 4% apiece, making them some of the best performers just after the market opened. Meanwhile, Datadog and DoorDash declined more than 2% and 0.5% respectively in mid-morning action. Alright, Dow movers. Among the blue chip stocks, Amazon, IBM, and Microsoft were early winners in early morning trade. Amazon and IBM each shared gained more than 2%. Microsoft shares added more than 1%. On the downside, Merck and McDonald's each declined fractionally ahead of the market open. I'm surprised and not surprised by McDonald's, honestly. And McDonald's just recently got in the news, too. But I know that I think more and more people are trying to script and save and eat at home right now. And I think that's putting some pressure on McDonald's, as it were. Alright, on the market open. Stock market today, jobs report surprises. Early Thursday, the Labor Department said the U.S. economy added 119,000 jobs in September, more than expected. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate ticked higher to 4.4% above estimates, which means that people are moving around. They're either getting fired and actually having to go back and find stuff, or, well, I mean, that's the big part of it. There's a downsize, but people are also going back to work. Economists expected an increase of 50,000 jobs, slightly better than the 22,000 reported in August, and the unemployment rate was estimated to remain at 4.3%. Now, do keep in mind that these numbers may get edited up and down. We've seen a lot of that, especially through the Biden years. So this 119,000 might get edited back down to 70,000, maybe even 50,000. Maybe it'll get edited up. We'll see. We'll go with that. Alright, so that's what we have going on our markets. Remember, nothing that was said here constitutes official financial advice. If you want official financial advice, shut up for right now. If you want official financial advice, do check with your financial advisor who knows your specific family's specific needs, wants, desires, and how to get there best, because everybody's financial situation is different. So that's what we have for that. All right. We're going to start today, before we even get into the Epstein stuff, we are going to talk about Epstein. Wow. That's just like a Freudian slip, where you say one thing and mean your mother. No, we're not going to talk about Epstein first. We're going to talk about Fetterman first. Because I disagree with John Fetterman on a lot of things, although a lot of MAGA people seem to think that he's the fourth coming of Christ at this point. I'm not 100% sure why, because he stands against a lot of what it is that they stand for or believe that they stand for. But he did have a fall this week. And we're going to listen to NPC News talk about this before we talk a bit about what's happened and what's happening now. All right. From NPC News, let's have a listen.
Tonight, a bit more political developing news with Senator John Fetterman, we've learned, in the hospital now. Of course, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, after collapsing outside his house in PA. His spokesperson said the senator had what's called a ventricle fibrillation flare-up, which our medical team tells us is basically the sudden irregular heartbeat that affects how your heart can pump blood. The team says he got lightheaded, fell, hit his face on the ground because of this. Experts say this could be life-threatening, a real emergency that means you could go unconscious, collapse potentially. The senator's team says he's doing well now and he's getting some routine observation. Dr. Kavita Patel is joining us now. Of course, Senator Fetterman had that stroke back in 2022. I think people remember that. Help us understand, again, plain English here, what I think it's called a VFib, what that means, how serious it is, et cetera.
Yeah, briefly, Hallie, ventricular fibrillation is when the heart just beats erratically. And what saved Fetterman's life is actually a pacemaker that was implanted in the past because he's had atrial fibrillation, which is also a similar type of heart dysrhythmia that puts him at increased risk for a stroke, which he's suffered from, and also a lot of other unintended effects. And so in this case, his pacemaker, which has that defibrillator, we all know those paddles that we see on TV shows in the hospital. That's essentially what's inserted inside of him and saved his life as his heart went into that chaotic rhythm.
What does a recovery look like from something like this? Do you know? And I know I should note, too, you obviously are not treating the senator. You're not his doctor. But just speaking broadly here in an instance like this.
Luckily, we do have statistics on people who do have these automatic defibrillators inserted, and their recovery is actually very routine and mild. It's manageable. Obviously, we need to follow him closely, and that's exactly why he went in an ambulance to the hospital. But this is something that we put those defibrillators in for a reason. So recovery is incredibly optimistic. And, of course, the senator is going to be followed very closely by his cardiologist. And I just use this as a kind of a message to everybody that when you feel something like this or when you have sometimes a fainting spell or some of these symptoms, this is exactly why coming in, getting it checked out. And if you've had a history of these erratic rhythms, it's worth mentioning that to your doctor so that we know if you're at higher risk.
All right. So Fetterman, he had a little bit of a problem with his heart, and he fell on his face. But, yeah, he's doing better now. Let's read about this from NPC. No, we're going to listen again. No, we're going to skip that one, because I'm pretty sure that's just what we listen to on the YouTube side. We do have a statement from Fetterman's office. Statement from Fetterman's spokesperson. During an early morning walk, Senator Fetterman sustained a fall near his home in Braddock. Out of an abundance of caution, especially given the fact that the guy couldn't take his seat for like 2 months because he had a stroke, literally on the campaign trail. Excuse me. He was transported to a hospital in Pittsburgh. Upon evaluation, it was established he had a ventricular fibrillation flare-up that led to Fetterman feeling lightheaded, falling to the ground, and hitting his face with minor injuries. Senator Fetterman had this to say: "If you thought my face looked bad before, wait till you see it now." So at least he's having fun with it. He is doing well and receiving routine observation at the hospital. He has opted to stay so doctors can fine-tune his medication regimen. Senator Fetterman is grateful for the EMTs, doctors, and nurses who are providing his care. So, as I have always said, number one, if you are feeling like something is not right, you should probably go and have it checked out. And as always, we do not wish death on people on this channel. We're not mean here. Mean is cheap. Mean is easy. Hold on. Images. Come on. Open image in new tab. You know who's mean? When mean is cheap and easy? This guy. We're not going to be like this guy. That was a long lead up to a joke, by the way. Yeah, this guy. We're not going to be like him. Not going to happen. So, I do hope for a speedy recovery for Senator Fetterman. I hope that he does well. I hope that he still lives a long and relatively healthy life, given, of course, the issues that he's already had. I don't know how healthy of a life you can live, but as relatively healthy as you possibly can. I hope the best for him. Let's see. There are people out there that do not hope the best for him, by the way, right now. Regretfully. That's going to be these guys from another NPC affiliate, NPC 10 out of Philadelphia. It's already prepping for the Olympics because they have the Olympics logo underneath the NPC logo. Pennsylvania Working Families Party plans to support primary challenger to Senator Fetterman. From Lauren Make. Pennsylvania's Working Families Party is making plans to support a primary challenge to Democratic Senator John Fetterman when he is up for re-election. I am online, Elaine. Welcome. Arvolt says, I was just thinking about Ed and Pom and how y'all were doing. Good morning, all. Yeah, you missed it last week when we all sat down and talked about the fact that somebody hit Pom's house with a car. That was fun. Arvolt says, Fetterman fell on his face and ironically looks better. Weird. Alright, Working Families Party. The state party announced Tuesday that they plan to start recruiting working class leaders into a candidate pipeline. By the way, that means progressives. So they're going to try to out-left Fetterman in a very purple to reddish purple state. You don't have the mandate. You almost lost to Dr. Oz. And you think you want to run a progressive in this state? Really? Good luck. Quest Banning's here. Good morning. We're just getting into the Epstein stuff. I think this is my last story before we go to... Or did I put the Cloudflare stuff up the top? Oh, I have one more before we get into that. We deserve real working class leadership in the U.S. Senate. Senator Fetterman has sold us out, and that's why the Pennsylvania Working Families Party is committed to recruiting and supporting a primary challenge to him in 28. Shoshana Israel, the Mid-Atlantic political director of Working Families Party, said in a statement, Nobody tell Midget B that that's that woman's name, by the way. Holy crap. Nobody go in the Discord and say that the person who's trying to get a primary to John Fetterman is named Shoshana Israel. I don't want to hear that for the next 7 days. Israel also wrote that Pennsylvanians deserve a senator who won't enable Trump or vote with Republicans to rip healthcare away from over 400,000 of our neighbors. NPC 10 reached out to Fetterman's office for a comment and has not yet received a response. It's the latest critique from the left of Fetterman, whose votes with Republicans, whose votes with Republicans on budget bills to end the government shutdown and who stands on Israel and votes in support of some Trump nominees have frustrated progressives. The announcement is one of the first full official moves to lay the groundwork for a primary challenge to the state's senior senator. I just want to point something out. You were within 10 points of losing to a TV personality. You were within 2 points of losing to Dr. effing Oz. And you want to go try to run a progressive in Pennsylvania? Are you stupid? In a statewide race? Are you stupid? I hate to tell you, in today's political landscape, Fetterman is one of the best chances you have to have a Democratic senator in Pennsylvania right now. Because he speaks to the old school Democrat Party pre-progressive movement that held the attention of a lot of union workers, of which you still have. Do you want a Republican senator in Pennsylvania? This is how you get a Republican senator in Pennsylvania. It's like saying I want to run a progressive challenger against Manchin in West Virginia. But they're going to do it. Because they think that they have some sort of mandate somewhere. They also thought he was going to be an uber progressive too, and he wound up not being that. Alright, and one more on the Fetterman side of things. From the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And yes, that's from his fall right there. But he is all cleaned up. He is all there. And, well, he's as all there as you can be once you've had a stroke and everything else. And he is heading back to D.C. Senator Fetterman returns to D.C. after Pittsburgh hospitalization. In his first public appearance since a heart issue led to him falling and sustaining injuries to his face, U.S. Senator John Fetterman sat before a crowd of Jewish organization leaders and cracked a joke. Be honest, the face is normal, right? Mr. Fetterman, who said over the weekend he'd received 20 stitches, told an assembly of the Jewish Federations of North America on Monday, the kids said they won't even notice, right? So, he has jokes. He has self-deprecation, and he is back. I'm afraid to go check the Discord, but kind of want to just make sure. He's back. He's raring to go. And again, I hope that he lives a very, very long, relatively healthy life. All right. It's on our minds. It's in the news. It's in the air. And we do have to talk about it. It is time. This is the live updater we're going to read from here. Trump signs a bill directing the DOJ to release the Epstein case files. And by the way, this is not good enough for progressives. Again. Alright, so to start off with this one, he says that has nothing to do with any of this, by the way. Trump says he'll meet with Mamdani on Friday in the Oval Office. So none of this has anything to do with Epstein, apparently. Larry Summer steps down from teaching at school, university. Newspaper reports will be talking about that later. This is the one we're supposed to be talking about. I don't know what the hell the rest of this fluff is. Alright. Trump signs bill compelling the DOJ to release the Epstein files. From CNN, Samantha Waldenberg and Alejandra Jaramillo. President Trump announced Wednesday he has signed a bill directing the DOJ to publicly release all of its Epstein-related files. Hey, I'm in the chat too. Wait, no, I can type that. Then I can be in the chat. Yay! Oh, we got to the forthcoming of Christ Quest fanning. Well, you can't hear me right now even say that. You'll hear that in a few minutes. Alright, President Trump announced Wednesday he has signed a bill directing the Department of Justice to publicly release all of its Jeffrey Epstein-related files. Trump revealed the signing in a lengthy social media post, probably interspersed with caps lock because, you know, that's what he does. Framing the release of the files as a transparency effort, he pushed through Congress and using the moment to criticize Democrats over the past associations with Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019, not the Democrats, was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars to Democrat politicians, I hate to cut it in the middle of this Trump love fest, but hey Donald, I would check your FEC records before you made that accusation. Just saying. And was deeply associated with many well-known Democratic figures, Trump said in a Truth Social post, noting Epstein's past associations with former President Clinton, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman, and others. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their associations with Epstein will soon be revealed, because I have just signed the bill with the biggest letters, the best letters, I have the greatest letters, to release the Epstein files, he continued. Yeah, just like Arvold says, Trump doesn't use caps lock. He just types huge letters, the biggest letters, everyone says so. The bill, formally titled the Epstein Files Transparency Act, was passed by the House Tuesday by a vote of 427 to 1. Who is the one, by the way? Now I want to know. Who was the single representative who voted no on the Epstein bill? Clay Higgins. That was not in the stack, but it is now. Let's do this off screen just in case one of my bill paying links pops up in the you might want to do this one. Is this what you wanted to do? That's why I use other screens to do this kind of stuff. Yep, we'll be talking about that separately. Let's put that there. The Senate then agreed, through unanimous consent, to deem the bill passed, as soon as it was received from the House, which happened Wednesday morning. It was not immediately clear how the DOJ will release the related files, or if the information will remain tied up in an ongoing investigation. Wait. I know how the DOJ is going to release the file. Pam Bondi is going to hand binders of stuff that we've already known for years to high-level Republican podcasters and tell them it's the smoking gun. That's how they're going to release the files. Oh wait, we've seen this one already, haven't we? A few people didn't vote because there are 435 members of Congress. I'm not sure how many are currently seated right now because retirements, deaths, etc. But there's supposed to be 435 seats, so they were missing 7. I just got an idea for a new sounder, by the way.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Right from Back to the Future. Yes, we are putting that on the sounder board. I want to see if there's one. I'll look into it later. But that, I think, would be fun if we got that. And no, because there's too much dialogue between it was on a rerun, or between that and it was on a rerun. But yeah, that's going on to the sounder board. Replay, since it's only 5 seconds.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Yep, we're doing that one. It was not immediately clear how the DOJ, we read that already, the president used the rest of the post to blast what he called years of politically motivated investigations while touting what he described as his administration's accomplishments. You act like you didn't know he was going to do that. That's what he's been doing for the past decades. In fact, let's do it again.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all the rest have. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again, he concluded. So, yeah, he is doing this one here. And apparently he is going to be going and meeting with Mom Downey. And he's not invited to Dick Cheney's funeral, but all four former living vice presidents are attending. Trump and Vance not invited to Cheney's funeral, but all four living former vice presidents attending. I would wear that as a badge of honor. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I was not invited to Dick Cheney's funeral. Okay. Cool. I'm sure that the attendees don't want to watch me piss on his grave anyway. Yeah, I can... For most sounders and most audio clips, I can use up to... I think... it's 30 seconds. As fair use. It's some ridiculously low number of seconds, but I think it's 20 or 30. And with that only being a 5-second clip, then yes, I can. I can use that on the sounder board. I mean, I use this one.
But I want my own ass! I want my own ass!
And I do that, by the way. Alright. How did we get here? From the BBC. No, not that BBC. Congress votes to send Epstein files bill to Trump. From Anna Fagai. Congress has passed a measure ordering the U.S. DOJ to release its files on late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Senate sent the bill to Trump's desk to sign into law a day after the House of Representatives approved it in a 427-1 vote. Trump has said he will sign the measure, but after abruptly reversing course on Sunday and urging fellow Republicans to support the disclosure of the records, as a backbench revolt brewed among rank-and-file members who demanded transparency. No, that's not what they were demanding. They weren't looking for transparency. They got convinced by the mainstream media and their handlers that Trump is totally in these because that's why he keeps blocking them, so you better demand them out now. It would bother me less if I had any evidence that most of them had seen the files prior to this. But I think they just walked themselves into a trap, if you want my honest opinion on that. And as I said before, I think either Trump himself is going to be in them, or there's going to be enough financial and political and university people in these things that is going to cripple large swaths of our economy, and Democrats are going to be the ones holding the bag and saying, hey, we called for this, and we convinced all of our other people to call for this as well. I can't wait till they're out. I want to see them. I don't want to see any of the pictures, because there are a lot of people in that binder that I don't want to see naked. Ugh. But yes, I would like to see at least the transcribed editions of the evidence. And who's there and who isn't. The Epstein files are documents from a criminal investigation into the financier, including transcripts of interviews with victims and witnesses and items seized in raids of his properties. U.S. AG Pam Bondi said on Wednesday morning, when asked about the Epstein files during an unrelated news conference, "We'll continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims." It came a day after survivors of Epstein spoke in support of the measure at the U.S. Capitol. One of them said they had suffered institutional betrayal for years. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told CNN that he expected the upper chamber to receive the bill from the lower one on Wednesday morning, after which the bill would be passed and then sent to Trump for presidential signature. Trump said the timing did not matter to him and has continued to cast the issue as a distraction. "I just don't want Republicans to take their eyes off all the victories that we've had," he wrote in a social media post late on Tuesday afternoon. Trump's own historical relationship with Epstein has again been the subject of recent headlines after lawmakers released more than 20,000 pages of documents from Epstein's estate, including some that mentioned Trump and other prominent figures without indicating any wrongdoing by those individuals. Trump's reversal at the weekend from attacking those on Capitol Hill who wanted the files released to saying there was nothing to hide surprised some in Washington. And again, I remind you that we now have, and the internet is forever, we now have on record the biggest voices in the DNC, the most prominent voices in the DNC, saying, "Release them, release them, release them," over and over again. So whatever comes out from the rest of this, wouldn't some of them want to say that Republicans destroyed the economy over this, which I think is actually a possibility. I do. Then we come back and say, "Hey, didn't you say on this day, and this day, release the damn files already? Trump's totally in them, release them." So that's how the House vote got. Let's figure out who the no vote was. Who is Clay Higgins, the only House member to vote against releasing the Epstein files? From Stephen Groves over at the Associated Press. Both Democrats and Republicans alike ready for a unanimous House vote on Tuesday to pass a bill to force the release of the case files in the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, but in the end, one lawmaker stood alone, and not like the cringy-ass Godsmack song. Republican Rep. Clay Higgins. Higgins, who is in his 5th term representing a congressional district in southwest Louisiana, explained in a lengthy statement he was a principled no in the bill from the beginning. He raised some of the same objections that Mike Johnson, another Louisiana Republican, had with the bill, yet even Johnson said Tuesday he would vote for it because none of us want to go on the record and in any way be accused of not being for maximum transparency. I mean, Arvold, she can come, and she's been on camera with me for gaming streams before, so she'll come down here. It's just the only thing with that is I've made the same determination for both of my children that until they are at the age of reason, they are not going to be on webcam out in public because they don't get to make the decision. I have tried and made sure that they stay out of the public eye.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I was gonna say I was looking over here waiting for you, but yeah, I can see you in the viewfinder.
I hear you talking about me.
Yeah, I do that.
Weird.
I enjoy it. All right. Anyway, going back to Higgins. For Higgins, a fervent Trump supporter and a member of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus, that wasn't a problem. He refused to give in to the building pressure, both within the Republican base and from survivors of Epstein's abuse, to pass the bill, even as both Trump and Johnson relented in their opposition to the legislation. He said that his concern with the bill was that it reveals and injures thousands of innocent people, witnesses, people who provided alibis, family members, etc. That is actually a fair point, too, by the way. If enacted in its current form, this type of broad reveal of criminal investigative files released to a rabid media will absolutely result in innocent people being hurt, he added. Higgins suggested he would be open to voting for the bill if the Senate amended it to protect the privacy of those who are not named who are named but not criminally implicated. But just hours later, the Senate passed the bill through unanimous consent, leaving Higgins the only lawmaker in Congress on record against the legislation. Yeah, no glasses also. And she does have mom's red hair. Alright. From Politico. Democrats are going to come to regret this. After Epstein vote, Trump ready to attack. From Dasha Burns and Diana Nirazi. The Trump admin on its back foot following brutal election results and its failed effort to quash a House vote to release the Epstein files is now planning to go on the attack. Really? So this is basically a propaganda piece. Wow. You don't hate the media enough, folks. The Democrats are going to come to regret this. Oh, that wasn't even Trump, said a White House official. Granted anonymity to discuss this tragedy. Oh, okay, it was Trump. He just came out and said, okay, I'm going to say the Democrats are going to come to regret this, but don't put my name on record. No, the Donald would not do that. Let's start with Stacey Plaskett. You think we're not going to make a scene of this? We do have that story on the stack too, by the way. Documents released from Epstein's estate show the non-voting delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands texting with Epstein during a congressional hearing in 2019. In those texts, Epstein appeared to try to influence the questions she asked from the dais. Her office did not respond to a request for comment, but a staffer told the Washington Post, "Where democracy goes to die in darkness," that Plaskett received the text from Epstein, along with staff, constituents, and the public at large during a hearing. The aide also said Plaskett made her disgust over Epstein's behavior clear. The admin's offensive comes amid intense frustration from the president and his top staffers, who say a few wayward Republicans worked with Democrats to push a distraction to the forefront. In addition, White House officials fear no amount of disclosure will be enough to satisfy a significant part of their base. The Senate approved legislation Tuesday forcing the DOJ to release any remaining files it has on Epstein, acting hours after an overwhelming House vote to send the bill to the desk of Trump, who spent months trying to kill it. The plan to attack, a well-worn tactic for the president, will test whether Trump still has the political muscle to cow people into submission and make the... Jesus. The man is a lot of things, but he's not a dictator, you guys. If he is a dictator, he's the world's worst dictator because the opposition wouldn't have been able to shut the government down for 40 days. If he had that sort of iron fist. It comes as questions swirl over whether the president has lost his iron grip on the GOP as entering his lame duck period. Jeez. Alright, we gotta look this up. Side note. I can't believe I'm even doing this right now based on the fact of my leave the kids out of stuff, but... Alright, let's have a look at Brock Lesnar's daughter. See if we can get a bigger picture of this. Let's do this one. There we go. Open her up. Image and new tab. Still kind of small. There we go. Alright, are you ready? Face reveal. There we go. Brock Lesnar's daughter. I kind of see where Arvold is coming from. I kind of get it. Alright. Back to Propaganda Litico. President Trump has nothing to hide, but the Democrats should be very scared because they have secrets to hide, said a second White House official, granted anonymity to discuss internal thinking. And just again, and I hate anonymous sources, except for the Mogwai's cat. I like that anonymous sources. But the rest of the anonymous sources, because we don't know if this is J.D. Vance, if this is a high-level staffer, somebody in the cabinet, or the night janitor. Democrats are already trying their best to ignore one of their own members, Stacey Plaskett, texting with Epstein in 2019 during an oversight hearing. These are the types of examples the admin will continue highlighting because it exposes the Democrats' absolute hypocrisy on the issue. Trump has already instructed the DOJ to investigate links between Epstein and the notable Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton, former Harvard President Larry Summers, and Democratic megadonor Reid Hoffman. All these guys were friends of his, Trump said on Tuesday in the Oval Office. What Epstein is a Democratic hoax to try to get me to not be able to talk about the $21 trillion in investments that I talked about today. Alright. Putting the what back in the WWE, says Quest Fanning. Or would that be Cena? Or it says, looks like her mom's DNA didn't even try. Quest says, the name is Tater. Dick Tater. Or it says, Brock's DNA gave a German suplex to his wife's DNA. Quest says, I just saw Lester's daughter 1 minute behind. Nice. See, I like doing this live so we can just go back and do little side quests like that. But anybody who's ever seen me play Fallout New Vegas knows that's also how I play open world games. Alright, we're going to go down the main quest. Ooh, shiny thing. Ooh, location. Trump has already instructed the DOJ to investigate links between Epstein and notable Dems, including former President Bill Clinton. Oh, we read that one already. Summers announced Monday he would step back from public life after emails revealed the former Treasury Secretary under President Clinton and top advisor to Barack Obama repeatedly sought advice from Epstein on romantically pursuing a woman he referred to as his mentee. That's wrong on its own part. Even if the kid was over 18, that's wrong on its own part, because that is position of power, position of subservience. There's no consent in that. There's so much wrong with the world right now. It's like the opening to the Aerosmith song. Something's wrong with the world today. Are you living on the edge?
Ed, you're not living on the edge. You have children.
She got that right about the same time I announced it, by the way. Let's see. The trove of materials handed over by Epstein's estate to congressional investigators and released to the public last week also included a 2018 email Epstein wrote claiming Trump knew about the girls, apparently referring to the underage girls Epstein was accused of trafficking. So, that was just dripping with propaganda. Alright, from CBS News. Epstein messages show effort to connect with former friend Bill Gates. From Graham Cates and Daniel Rutnick. Messages from the trance of Epstein-related documents released by Congress on November 13th shed new light on the deceased sex offender's efforts to court billionaire Bill Gates. The newly released material from 2017 shows a series of texts between Epstein and an apparent advisor to Gates discussing the tech baron and other attendees at an annual banquet in Washington. Epstein had been hoping to sell Gates on a donor-advised fund, a tax-deductible charitable vehicle Epstein wanted to operate, but that never ultimately materialized. Gates was interested in the idea, the advisor said, but for the misgivings of one person who didn't want him communicating with Epstein, Gates' then-wife, Melinda. I wonder why they split. He wants to talk with you, but his wife won't let him, the advisor said. In a series of texts a minute later, the advisor said of Gates, he loves you, he says hi, and he feels bad about the donor-advised fund. By the way, he thought, great idea, but wife wouldn't allow. Makes you wonder who's actually running Microsoft. Later in the day, Epstein suggested the same person, that former Obama White House counsel Catherine Rumler would love to sit with Melinda and give her the other side of Jeffrey. A source tells CBS News that a meeting never took place. Anonymous again. CBS News previously reported that Rumler, who is currently the chief legal officer at Goldman Sachs, which, by the way, going back to what I said at the beginning of this and why this didn't get all released right away, you see the people high up in financial chains. Goldman Sachs. A top counsel tried to convince the wife of the top of Microsoft that, hey, it's okay to just talk to this person who traffics in underage girls. That's a good point there, damn man. If it takes his wife to stop him making that stupid decision, then I hope it's his wife. I don't know. Microsoft has made a lot of other stupid decisions, but Quest says Melinda gave him entirely too much leash to begin with. He was always creepy. But yeah, the people implicated in all this are up and down in our entire financial sector and probably a bunch of other places too. So, and I hope that you have a couple months of rations on hand. and a contingency plan if everything falls to crap. Because with everybody that's tied into everything at this, it's entirely possible that the walls come crumbling down over this. I'm not saying it's actually absolutely going to happen, but I would start getting my affairs in order if it was me. From CNN, Larry Summers says he's deeply ashamed after new Epstein emails and will pause public engagements. You know he did something wrong. We don't even have the files out yet. You just know with a response like that. Someone like that is never coming back into public engagements when they make a decision like that. From MJ Lee. Larry Summers said Monday he was deeply ashamed about his relationship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. So, he got popped for the first time in 2008. And popped again in 2019. What year is this now? Oh yeah, it's 2025. You have had 17 years to come back out and pause public relations. I want to point that out to you. You've had 17 years to do this, and you're only doing it now because basically you're about to get caught. When this is a person who has been at the top of everybody's list of... if I was in a position like that and I was friends with somebody like that, I'd want to set the record straight. At the moment that people started saying Epstein didn't kill himself. So, yeah, I don't have evidence of it because I haven't seen the files, but given the person's behavior, I have plenty of evidence in front of me to say that this guy's cooked. Quest Fanning says, as I said before, most elites are interchangeable. We can do with a bit of housekeeping. A few more principal leaders joining with the existing bums won't hurt long term. With the only exception that I have of that is typically when we bring somebody from the bottom rungs of society to put them up to the top to interchange them with some of the elites, as you've said. The elite gets to train his replacement so that the person's not just going in completely effing blind. And we are going to lose some of that experience, regretfully. And there are going to be some decisions that are made due to inexperience. If we are starting to... yes, BMO Harris Bank is not going to go under if their president gets implicated with Epstein. And I'm not saying that BMO Harris's president is going to. I'm using that as an example. Goldman Sachs is not going to go under because their top legal counsel was trying to pave the way for Bill Gates to bang a 12-year-old on Epstein Island. That particular person's probably not going to be there, but... but yes, there is going to be some experience that's not there. And yes, that is going to affect the way our economy goes, regretfully. I don't want it to do that either, but that is 100% going to happen. That's why I said, just make sure that you've got a contingency plan in place for when all this comes down. For me, I'm going to hole up in a brownstone in Brooklyn when everything comes crashing down. And I'm never going to come back out. Move my family in there too. Larry, let's see. But the Harvard University professor added that he will continue teaching as some call for the university to sever ties with him. I wouldn't. I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain that they have caused. I take full responsibility for my misguided decision to continue communicating with Epstein, Summers said. While continuing to fulfill my teaching obligations, I will be stepping back from public commitments as one part of my broader effort to rebuild trust and repair relationships with the people closest to me. Summers' first statement addressing the newly unveiled Epstein correspondence comes on the heels of Senator Warren calling on Harvard to sever ties with Summers and putting new pressure on the elite university to hold Summers accountable for his close friendship with Epstein. The love of my life brings up a good point. You would have to want to go to New York City. I've always said I feel like I'll get to the Holland Tunnel and get stopped and be told, you have the wrong political views, get the hell out of here. But no, and follow up on that from the BBC, he has now stopped teaching as well. Harvard University professor Larry Summers is taking a leave while the school investigates his and others' ties with late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, a spokesperson confirmed. I don't have that on the sounder board yet, but I still have it up here. Sing the nanas. The former U.S. Treasury Secretary and one-time Harvard president will stop teaching and step back as director of the Mossaver Rahmani Center for Business and Government at the Harvard Kennedy School. A spokesperson told the BBC's U.S. partner, CBS News, that Summers believes it's in the best interest of the center. Egon! The first domino falls. Alright, Jasmine Crockett. Got into it a little bit here. Jasmine Crockett apparently found a list of donors that included a completely different Jeffrey Epstein and tried to tie a bunch of people to it. So let's talk about that. Riley Gaines. I didn't attempt to mislead anybody, says Jasmine Crockett, as she attempts to mislead everybody.
That I was clear that it was a Jeffrey Epstein, but I never said that it was specifically that Jeffrey Epstein. That I was clear.
Okay, but why would you bring that up? If you weren't trying to tie everything to that Jeffrey Epstein. And I've defended Crockett, by the way, in the past. Because she acts like she's a dumb hood rat. But I have heard her talk before she got into Congress. She is highly educated, and prior to taking her position as a representative, she didn't use any ebonics whatsoever. So she's trying to play the character of Jasmine from the block, and she is anything but. Meghan McCain firing at Jasmine Crockett. My dad's been dead for 7 years. He never met Jeffrey Epstein, let alone took money from him. The Epstein you're referencing is an entirely different human being. Meghan McCain follows, do you have mashed potatoes for brains? You absolute joke. No, because it wasn't stupidity, it was malice. Welcoming cashier UJQ wants me to have the best viewers from streamboo.com remove the space. Should we remove the space? Should we get the best viewers? I cannot go to streamboo.com and get the best viewers. Do you know why? Because I already have the best viewers. Or I already have viewers who want to see me play blue ukulele with Disney characters on it. Welcoming cashier, if you want to talk and talk normally, you can come back after 10 minutes. 600 seconds. We don't ban. We time out. Everybody gets a second chance, even if they're a bot. All right, well, let's read the embedded Fox News article that goes with this. Trump official fires back at Dems Epstein donor claim, totally different person. This is from Lee Zeldin. Alex Nitzberg reporting. U.S. EPA agency admin Lee Zeldin clapped back after Jasmine Crockett said that he'd taken money from someone named Jeffrey Epstein. Still, everybody gets a second chance, Quest Fanning. It's just like in the Discord, even though you lost your Discord access. It's just like in the Discord. We don't ban anybody. Everybody gets a second chance, and a third chance, and a fifth chance. Basically until I say you're done. I'm the only person, with the exception of showing a dick pic in the Discord or doxing someone else. My mods don't get to ban people. Alright, the Congresswoman drops Zeldin's name while listing figures and entities she had taken money from somebody by the name of Epstein, noting that she had her team dig very quickly. She rattled off the following list: Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio. Zeldin fired back in a post to X, noting the donations to one of his former campaigns had nothing to do with the notorious, late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, Crockett, a physician named Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who is a totally different person than the other Jeffrey Epstein, donated to a prior campaign of mine, Zeldin wrote, reposting another person's post that featured footage of Crockett's comments. Zeldin then exclaimed in all caps because he got the idea from Trump. No, clap emoji. Freaking, clap emoji. Relation, clap emoji. You, clap emoji. Genius. Yes, that's exactly how Fox News wrote it out, by the way. If you are watching on the audio or listening on the audio platform. I wasn't just saying clap emoji because they put the clap emoji on there. It says, no, clap emoji in brackets. Freaking, clap emoji in brackets. Relation, clap emoji in brackets. You, clap emoji in brackets. Genius. Words written out. I'm dead serious. As if Fox News couldn't get any cringier. Turn off Fox, you guys. I'm telling you. Alright, we've got some video here from ABC News. Epstein survivor describes her fear over possibility files won't be released, which seems to be an uncommon one on this because typically it's the fear that they will get released and somebody innocent will get swept up in it. Let's listen.
Be joined by Danny Bensky, who is a Jeffrey Epstein survivor. Thank you so much for joining us. As you know, you were there. An emotional cheer erupted in the House chamber after the vote was called. Then, while you were at a vigil on Capitol Hill, you found out the Senate had also passed this bill by unanimous consent. What were you feeling in that moment?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, Lindsay, thank you so much for having me on today. Yeah, we, survivors really thought that we were going to have to come back in January and February and really speak our truths and have to tell our stories to multiple senators. And that was sort of what we were prepared for. That was what we thought the road would be. And to just have, even just in the gallery, that moment all together, sitting there with your sisterhood and with the Roberts, Virginia Giuffre's family, there was that moment of absolute elation in such a beautifully nonpartisan way when the House passed it. And then we came back and we were at the vigil. And the vigil, we had this beautiful moment honoring those that have passed due to trauma and due to not being able to recover from the trauma that they endured in their youth. And we were speaking of Virginia Giuffre. And that was when Lauren Hirsch, who is the director of World Without Exploitation, comes over to me and gives me a little bit in the ear and says, it's on his desk. Like, the bill is on his desk. And I said, on Trump's desk? It has to go through the Senate. There's no way. And then they said, no, it passed the Senate. It's a unanimous vote.
And just taking a step back here, this has been something that you and the tight-knit group of survivors have been pushing for such a long time. Does it actually feel real yet that it's on track to happen?
No, not really. I think we have been through a lot, 5 administrations. And I think we have been tirelessly working at meeting with congressional leaders and really just trying to voice our stories in as many places as possible. And I have to say, something extraordinary happened where the more we came forward, yes, we are Epstein and Maxwell survivors, but we started hearing from other survivors. And there are so many out there who have survived this sort of abuse. And I think that this is really becoming a story about American democracy at work. And I think that that's what's so fascinating about it, because people got out there and they called their congressional leaders, they called their senators. And so, yes, we are sort of, in media a lot, but we know that there is a huge amount of people out there who stood in support of this and really pushed it over the finish line. And that is what became super, just that extraordinary feeling of unity.
You've developed close friendships over the years with many of the other survivors. You've celebrated.
All right, so, yeah. One person at least is elated that they're coming out. I don't know what she actually thinks is going to come off of this. On the other side of this, Bad Hombre says the latest Democrat conspiracy theory is dropped. 1,000 FBI agents at a secret facility underground where nobody can see them. Scrub Trump and Republicans from the Epstein files. That's why Trump wants the files released. These people will never be satisfied. They don't want transparency or justice. They'll always move the goalpost by making up unsubstantiated nonsense. Protecting their grift is the top priority. I don't know that is entirely a part of this, by the way, either. I think one part of this is also the fact that they wanted this to carry out and keep getting fought until the midterms, so they can use it as leverage during the midterms. But yeah, we got Chink. There are 2 ways to look at Trump crumbling on Epstein files. He was responsive to his base, who was starting to think that he was full of shit, or now they have had months to scrub the fuck out of those files, and I don't mind releasing the rest. Darth Powell, they delayed the Epstein vote so they could scrub the files of important names. Molly Ploufkins, who's a paid Dem shill, report that the FBI worked overtime to redact Trump's name from the Epstein files. The Krappensteins, the Trump DOJ is scrubbing the Epstein files of Republicans, according to blah, blah, blah. Power to the people. Translation, the file has been scrubbed. Morgan J. Freeman, who's not that Morgan Freeman. Will Trump have the ability to scrub the files of anything incriminating of him? The other Krappenstein, holy crap, Mark Epstein, just said Republicans are scrubbing the Epstein files. Yeah, you just, with the exception of, it doesn't look like we've got Jersey, my wife's son compliant, and JoJo from Jersey sitting out here. But you've got a major who's who of paid shills saying all the same thing, because that's what came across the Slack channel. All right, from the Daily Wire, Democrat who texted Epstein asking for Trump dirt gives patently insane excuse. And this, of course, is the non-voting delegate from the U.S. Virgin Islands, which meant this is the representative of Jeffrey Epstein for Little St. James, at least. I believe he was also represented in Florida, because I believe he had a residence there. Excuse me. From Amanda Prestigiacomo. Democrat Virgin Islands delegate Stacey Plaskett claimed on Tuesday that she was texting Jeffrey Epstein during a 2019 hearing because he was a constituent and not at the time under federal investigation. Which, by the way, he was. So that's a lie. Let's see. Quest says she invoked the demos. Damn says, by that logic, how long would the Dems have had to scrub the files? Quest says Democrats were able to use the BS issue of pretending the Supreme Court essentially endorsed abortion, bans to election victory. Their voters will continue to be unbelievably stupid. Let's see. It was recently revealed that Plaskett was texting Epstein in real time during a congressional hearing with former Trump attorney turned adversary Michael Cohen. Epstein was texting Plaskett information to seemingly go after President Trump. Let's listen.
And I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent, who was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation, and who was sharing information with me. Now, I heard recently.
During the hearing, Epstein told Plaskett to question Cohen about the president's former executive assistant. Plaskett notably frets over not understanding the person's name and tells Epstein that she's up next. Minutes after Plaskett brings up the assistant's name, as she was told, Epstein texts Plaskett, "Good work." New Epstein files show Stacey Plaskett got real-time help via text messages from Epstein on how to hurt Trump during a 2019 congressional hearing, with former Trump attorney, journalist Michael Schellenberger captioned a video of the newly uncovered incident. Let's watch. The Post reviewed multiple video feeds from the hearing and matched the texts which were sent
This
in
was when
Pacific
Barack
time.
Obama was president of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in
Message,
Chicago,
are you chewing?
he
Message,
commented
not anymore.
that only black people could live that way. Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend, Mr.
Message,
Meadows, pointed
Cohen
out,
brought
misled
up
this
Rona.
committee
Keep
even
her of
today in a
record.
written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are
Message,
going to review
Rona?
that. Did you review? Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record? Yes or no?
Yes.
Question: You helped out the president's campaign,
Rick, I'm not-
or were
up
involved
next
in
is
the
an
campaign as a
acronym.
representative, as a spokesman. Even in your words today, it was your
Message,
idea
that's
for the
his
campaign
assistant.
dating back to 2011. Is that accurate? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump organization?
They
and
are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So, Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
Uh-huh. You got to quickly
Officer.
give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is the Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his.
Message, good
She
work.
was involved in a lot that went on.
That's not incriminating at all. The same day as Plaskett's jarring defensive reactions, the House rejected a Democrat bid to stop a resolution to censure Plaskett. Delegate Plaskett's willingness to receive instructions on official congressional proceedings from Epstein, a convicted felony sex offender with deeply concerning international associations, is especially alarming and inappropriate given her own past service to the U.S. Department of Justice and her current role on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. That's a fair point, actually. The resolution, which was introduced by Ralph Norman of South Carolina, reads. But yeah, that's their excuse. No, I was just texting with a delegate, or with a constituent. But the House has voted against the censure because, well, that's what they do. What's funny, and after that vote, and after everything that Adam Schiff has said over the past decade, another one from the Daily Wire. Adam Schiff claims lawmakers shouldn't use politics to destroy presidents. From Virginia Cruta. Senator Schiff had critics firing back over his recent comments at the Texas Tribune Festival, where he claimed that politicians should not use their power to render presidents or political parties unsuccessful due to their political differences. Let's hear it right from the man's mouth.
That attitude that if you can make a president or a party unsuccessful, no matter what damage it might do to the country, because it's good politics, we have to get past that ruinous idea. We have to figure out a way to stop viewing each other as our enemy. And that solution will come when we figure out how to be better consumers of information again, how to determine what's true and what's not true, how to stop rewarding advertising behemoths for dividing us the way they do.
Yes, that's that Adam Cohen, or Adam Schiff, by the way, not Adam Cohen. Exactly. It's only when they are weak that they want peace. I would go as far as to say that, and again, haven't seen the files, can't prove it. By the way, that video is going into the Discord right now because I'm sure that there are other people who want to see that, and put a little emoji on that that involves a certain star. Alright, Scott Adams says, Schiff's entire game depends on people not remembering what he said yesterday. Exactly. IT guy says the guy who from 2017 through 2019 was seemingly on cable news every day, saying he'd seen direct evidence of Russia collusion. Steve Guest summed up the situation, pot, meet, kettle. I usually simplify that and just say pot/kettle when I say it online, or just pot kettle when I say it out loud. So, yeah. That guy is telling you to calm the F down. On the other side of it, Marjorie Taylor Greene is now in the hot seat with MAGA. They hate her now. As I was saying at the top of the show, I got blocked by cat crap because I suggested at the time that Marjorie Taylor Greene was a Democrat plant because she was playing a caricature of what most people believe Republicans to be. She just seemed so on, and just way too on point with the caricature that you would see in like The Onion or the Washington Post in a political cartoon of what they believe a Republican is. And I've always said I think she's a Democrat plant, made to both rally up Republicans and say, yeah, this is what we need to do, more of this here in Congress and more people, and but also say the most outlandish, stupid things, and say, "Hey, this is what all Republicans believe." And then people like Cat Crap boosted her voice until their messiah, Donald Trump, turned on her and said, "No, I don't like you anymore." And now suddenly they try to act like they haven't spent the last 5 years saying that this was the third coming of Christ. Yeah, Cat Crap went into, I don't know if they had a Twitter group chat or a little Discord or something, But I know he dropped one of my tweets in because it just blew up with people trying to tell me that I was a libtard. Because I said I thought that Marjorie Taylor Greene was a Democrat plant. From NPC News, Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene says Trump's handling of the Epstein files is destructive to the MAGA movement. From Megan Leibowitz. During an emotional news conference held hours before the House was set to vote on releasing all of the Epstein files, Marjorie Taylor Greene said President Trump's handling of the case has been destructive to the MAGA movement. I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him, for the policies and for America first, and he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition, Greene said, standing beside Epstein victims and families. Which, again, is funny because he literally just signed the fucking thing. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves, she continued, flanked by Epstein survivors. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me. I'm still getting caricature of what they think a Republican is, and that's not even just because I'm using the mocking accent off of this. And progressives love this woman right now. Like, I've seen progressive accounts on Instagram and Threads, and there aren't very many progressive accounts left on X, but they're just saying, well, I never thought that I'd be behind Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she's bringing up very good points, which means, or translates to, oh, she's saying Orange Man bad, so that means she must be right. They'll get behind anybody who says Orange Man bad. That's why people were ready to, millennials were ready to embrace Dick Cheney because he said Orange Man bad. Greene said that the fight over the Epstein files and Trump's handling of the situation has been one of the most destructive things to MAGA. Watching this actually turn into a fight has ripped MAGA apart, and the only thing that will speak to the powerful, courageous women behind me is when action is usually actually taken to release these files, and the American people won't tolerate any other bullshit. Reached for comment on the press conference, White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson said, Democrats and the media know about Epstein and his victims for years and did nothing to help them, while Trump is calling for transparency and is now delivering it with thousands of pages of documents as part of the ongoing oversight investigation. So, yeah, now they're fighting. Let's skip this one, because that's a lot of the same information we just read. But Greene's constituents telling us how they feel about the feud. From NPC News, we got video on this one. Throw some volume at this and let's have a listen.
Do you think that the district feels a little torn in seeing them have this feud, this falling out?
It might be hard for some people, but not for me. For me, I still support both of them. I don't think he should have called her a traitor, but, you know, one thing we love about Trump is that Trump says whatever's on his mind. And I think that the reason we don't trust a lot of politicians is because they don't say what's on their mind. They say what they think people want to hear.
You know, at this point, honestly, I haven't been very happy with some of the comments that President Trump has made. I've been very disappointed, quite frankly. But time will tell. You know, one thing you've got to learn about politics, You're my best friend today. You're my enemy tomorrow.
Do you hope that she'll patch up differences with President Trump?
I think by patching it up and working, we'll all work together. That's what I'd like to hope.
Personally, I'm not picking one side over the other. I still support both Marjorie and Trump. I think they just have some different ideas right now about the best way to lead the country.
So they're trying so hard to all be on the same page, but it's not working. All right, what else do we have? Briefly from CBS News, same idea. We already read most of this. Georgia voters voice support for Marjorie Taylor Greene amid rift with Trump over Epstein files vote, from Brian Unger. In Rome, and that's Rome, Georgia, not Italy, where the church steeple rises higher than the city hall, faith among the Floyd County Republican women's group is divided into two kinds: political and personal. We really live in the dumbest timeline, don't we? On a day when other voices in the party have been loud, Pam Peters, the chair of the Floyd County Republican Party, and other members of the GOP are quietly volunteering at a food pantry run by a local ministry. We have a mission, and we're here to do that mission, Peters said. On Tuesday, while the representative was speaking at the U.S. Capitol, the group was bagging lunches for school children and trying to avoid the partisan political winds raging in D.C. When it comes to the growing feud between Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of Trump's earliest and most vocal supporters, there's faith, loyalty, and respect for being true to one's own self. Earlier that day, Greene had joined Republicans and Democrats outside the Capitol with several survivors of Epstein's abuse before Congress voted to force the DOJ to release files related to the convicted sex offender. Greene's push to release more documents connected with the case has led to a rift between her and Trump. And again, that is in spite of the fact that he signed it, so. And it's good on these people, by the way, for actually doing the charity work. But that's all that I have on the Epstein stuff. That's it. Hey, would we like mini viewers? Should we take the link? Applied Championship T says, would you like mini viewers? Let's make you popular. I feel like that's what the last bot said. Would that be correct? I don't know. Let's go over to Kick and let's get back down to the bottom of the chat. Let's give Applied Championship T. Let's give this person a second chance. So you're going to go timeout. Five minutes. You want to come back and chat real after 5 minutes, you're allowed. But nope, you got to sit for 5 minutes and be quiet. Be a good boy. Alright, let's talk about the ACA. Obamacare sticker shock. 3 factors pushing premiums to record highs. From Diana Stancy. Americans are bracing for their health care premiums to increase in 26. Amid uncertainty stemming from whether the ACA subsidy is about to expire at the end of the month will receive an extension. Those shopping on the ACA marketplace are already expected to face a 26% premium price increase in 26, and if the potential government subsidies expire, monthly payments for subsidized patients could increase by 114%, according to an analysis from the Kaiser Family Foundation released in October. But the potential lapse in government subsidies, which seek to lower monthly payments for patients, isn't the only reason for rising premium prices. At the crux of the issue is that the ACA's foundation includes several inflationary provisions that are driving up healthcare costs per experts. The ACA does more to increase prices. Michael Kinnan, director of health policy studies at Washington-based libertarian-leaning Cato Institute think tank, told Fox News Digital on Monday. Of course, the Cato Institute doesn't think government should be involved in anything. That's kind of what they do. It increases prices on healthy people by requiring them to pay double or triple what they should have to pay for health insurance, and it requires everyone who enrolls in the ACA rather, I still don't use that word, to buy more comprehensive coverage than they probably would if you gave them the money. So, let's talk about the ACA. Because it looks like that is not going to, the extension is not going to pass, and it's going to get really, really expensive. But we already knew that that was coming. That's the problem with this, is we already knew that this was going to be a thing. What I mean when I say that is the fact of, we have this government subsidy. We have this program. And I have fully admitted from the beginning, I like aspects of the ACA, but I also understand why these specific aspects of the ACA are driving costs up. Because the one major aspect that I like about it is a big part of the reason that we are seeing the increased prices. The ACA guaranteed that anybody could seek coverage and could not be denied for a pre-existing condition. Now, there are some extremists out there who like to claim that women were getting turned away from their health care prior to the ACA just for being women. I have not seen any evidence of this outside of propaganda, of course, anti-ACA propaganda. But I've been very firm on this. I've always looked at the situation where father of two has a healthy family at first. He's working a job just to get by because it's the only thing that's available to him. And one of the kids pops up with leukemia while he's on the company that he hates health insurance. And now he can't do anything because if he goes and he finds his dream job with a company that he likes, then the new healthcare coverage, the new insurance that he gets from work, is going to say, no, I'm denying coverage to the kid because the kid has a previous condition. So it sucks to be you. I can cover everyone else in your family, but it sucks to be you. You have to pay for the leukemia treatment out of pocket. And that put a lot of people in a lot of situations where they were forced to stay in the things that they hated, so that they can continue to get the coverage. Whereas with the guaranteed coverage, then yes, they can go and move about and they're not trapped into this. So I've always liked the pre-existing condition coverage of that. And I'm not dumb enough to think, because I like that isn't a part of what made the whole thing as expensive as it is. Because yes, that's a part of it. That's the reason that we had the mandate, and that's the reason that premiums are rising around the board, since the mandate is at zero right now, because now people can say, I can't afford that, going after yourself. And the insurance companies that lobbied for having the mandate can't do anything about it. Oh, well, we hope that you'll still come and buy from us. Meanwhile, the people who are buying from them, who actually have issues that need to be covered, are seeing their rates increase, double, triple, quadruple. Because it's costing more and more to cover those people that have leukemia, cancer, heart disease, and a myriad of other pre-existing conditions. The mandate was built in there for a reason, by the way. And I don't agree with the mandate, but I understand why it was there. Because it was the only way to make the rest of this house of cards work. Now, on top of this, with pre-existing condition aside, the biggest problem I have with the ACA is that it was designed to fail, and all of these price increases that we're seeing were built in. And when you're under a Democratic administration, you can put a Band-Aid on it by demanding Congress give you the subsidies, or just doing it by executive order, subsidizing the program with stuff that is in discretionary spending to make sure that people don't see the actual cost that they're paying. but you can only come back out and use somebody else's money for so long. And the architects of the ACA knew that. The ACA was designed to fail, and it was designed to fail in such a way that a majority of people who thought that they were getting the cat's ass in insurance because they worked for a union were suddenly still going to be priced out of the market for insurance. So coming in and joining the progressive chorus and saying, we can't afford this anymore, we need single payer. That's what the ACA was designed to do. That was its original intended purpose, and because of its original intended purpose, it actually is working as it was intended. What we see with the increasing prices and the subsidies and the fight over the subsidies else, it's not a bug of the system, it's a feature. Because as you put healthcare out of the hands of more and more everyday, workaday folks, even if their household has 6 figures in its salary, you have people that look at this and say, I can probably make it on my own, but man, I got kids. I got to do something else. Maybe single payer wouldn't be so bad. Man, I don't know. I got to make sure my kid might have the sniffles. Can we just do single payer? Look, Canada tells us that they just get to go to the doctor and not even think about it. I heard from my friend in Europe that he just gets to go to the doctor and not even think about it. And my biggest concern with socialized healthcare, single payer healthcare, of course, is the fact of, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. J. Edgar. You said I disagree with the amount of taxes that I have to pay in at the end of every year. I'm sorry, there's no healthcare for you right now. We've determined that your cancer doesn't need treatment. Thank you for visiting. See, when the government is the entity that's controlling your healthcare and you criticize the government, you don't typically want to criticize the entity that's controlling your healthcare. The damned man, who actually would be our resident expert in socialized healthcare, I don't know what MAID is. And I feel like it's something that we probably can't say on YouTube, because I was just talking about the Canadian healthcare system. And you know what their solution is if medical costs get way too far out of hand. Another thing we can't say on YouTube. The damned man says, as someone from the UK, if you go for social health care, biggest issue is how long you'll wait for a doctor's appointment. And we have a very hypochondriac society as well. So I don't know how hypochondriac Canada or the UK are, but I feel like in our society, you can take those wait times and triple them. Based on the number of people in our society who think that they have a mile behind the eye headache and they think that's the big one and they're going to die. Versus someone who actually has a medical issue where the brain is trying to get pushed out the back of the head and a headache could actually mean that she's dying. So that is my rant on the ACA. And it was designed to fail. It 100% was designed to fail. And we're seeing some of that now. I don't know what the hell this is. Apparently I can't read whatever the hell this is. NOLA.com. Here, let's run this through the archive. Maybe you should have checked that before I got started. And not be a dumbass. See, right now I can't be like Styx. I can't just say, link in the description, archived of course. No, I'm not a robot, you F-stick. Hey look, it's already been archived. Ha, I win. This story is only for subscribers. Oops, sorry. Here's how the ACA Marketplace health insurance rates are expected to change in your part of Louisiana. From Emily Woodruff. The government has reopened after a 43-day shutdown driven by a fight over the future of ACA subsidies, and the question now is what millions of Americans will pay for health insurance if Congress does not act. New estimates from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a nonpartisan research group. Nonpartisan, that's funny. That's in favor of extending the subsidies, show that marketplace premiums would rise sharply across Louisiana if the pandemic era enhanced tax credits expire after 2025. Which again, if this is supposed to make everything affordable, why do we have subsidies on it? Why do we need subsidies? Oh, excuse me. Must be over the 2-hour mark. The enhanced credits were created during the pandemic to make marketplace insurance more affordable by limiting how much people pay each month based on their income. Congress later extended them through 25. If lawmakers do not reach an agreement, then the credits return to the pre-pandemic levels, which are expected to significantly increase monthly costs for many enrollees. That's what I want over here. And again, this is over on this side. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities modeled how much more typical households would pay without them. Okay, give me a number. Alright. Steve Scalise. District 1, a 45-year-old earning $32,000. Premiums projected to rise from $691 to $2159, a 212% increase. Family of 4 making $130,000. Annual premiums projected to rise from $11,050 to $22,858. A 60-year-old couple earning $85,000. Premiums projected to rise from $7,225 to $30,365. I mean, at that point, I would just go without. And they go over what the rest of New Orleans districts are looking at as well, which you get 6 congressional districts. Most of it looks pretty much the same across all of them. From the Hill. What to know about GOP's Obamacare talks, Trump's push for direct payments. From Nathaniel Weichsel and Joe Choi. Class Fanning says, when you buy car insurance, you don't expect to include oil changes and car washes. Why does insurance have to include so much? At some part of it, it is to try to prevent having the big one. I get why they're trying to get you to do preventive maintenance on your health insurance, because it's supposed to be an incentive to get you to go and do it. I know that I get a lower premium cost on my insurance based on the fact that I go out for a doctor's checkup. So yeah, the hope is that they catch or can prevent a major heart attack, cancer, or stuff like that. That's why they want you to do your basic checkups and do it on the insurance, because that's a bonus to do so. Now, an oil change isn't going to prevent you from getting into a crash, but like if your thought here would be more akin to the idea of if your car insurance paid you to go have your ball joints checked every year, your brakes checked every year. That would be more akin than saying oil changes in the car washes. To find a problem before it comes back out. Again, understand why they're doing it. Don't agree with it, but understand why they're doing it. Anyway, from Nathaniel Weichsel and Joe Choi. Republicans are rushing to deliver an alternative to the ACA's enhanced subsidies ahead of a self-imposed mid-December deadline. Trump wants to send ACA subsidy money directly to consumers, and Republicans are trying to find a way to make that happen. Republicans spent weeks during the government shutdown refusing to negotiate with Democrats on health care, and are now considering their own ideas to replace the subsidies, despite political danger of letting them expire. The ideas are vague, and many health experts warn a direct cash proposal would create a death spiral in the marketplace where healthy people will drop coverage and use the subsidy cash to pay their limited out-of-pocket costs, leaving sicker and expensive patients with sky-high premiums. Which is literally the opposite of what's happening and why we're having a death spiral up. Is because the marketplace depends on charging healthy people more and more to subsidize the sicker and expensive patients. Trump on Tuesday told Congress not to waste time on an extension of the enhanced subsidies, taking a harder line against them at a time when some lawmakers are looking for a bipartisan compromise. The only healthcare I will support or approve is sending the money directly back to the people, Trump wrote on Tuesday on Truth Social. Again, I'm not 100% clear on how this works. Like, do you just get a check from the IRS and it says, make sure you promise only to use this for healthcare? Or a lot of people are going to go out and say, hey, look, free money from the government. Hey, look, another big screen TV. Trump said people could buy their own much better insurance and doubled down on the idea to send money directly to consumers. Over the weekend, Trump said he had personal talks with some Democrats about his direct healthcare payment plan. The insurance companies are making a fortune, Trump told reporters in Florida. Their stock is up over 1,000% over a short period of time. They're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. And they're not really putting it back, certainly like they should. It's not clear what Trump's plan is, which is the name of the book regarding Trump's administration and presidency, not the article. Giving people money to buy health insurance is how the ACA exchanges work. But he insisted, this is the only way to have great health care in America. Get it done now. Senator Cassidy unveiled a plan to use untaxed health savings accounts to help consumers pay out-of-pocket expenses. Cassidy's plan is not the official Republican position, and he hasn't released legislation, but it aligns with Trump's demand to end the enhanced subsidies and send money directly to consumers. Which, by the way, I'm to the understanding that's already how HSAs work. I have one offered to me, I don't use it. But I'm to the understanding that's how that works, is just you put your own money pre-taxed into that and then use that to pay for things like checkups and cleanings and stuff like that. Goodness, I'm tired. It was suggested to me the first time I saw an HSA for myself that I actually used that to go get LASIK. That was pre-ACA, by the way. Get the money up in, because it's pre-taxed, into the HSA and then go get my eyes fixed. I can say that if you look at the broad outlines of what I'm speaking of, it is clearly broad outlines of what the president is speaking of. Cassidy said, if you're going to get it done by 26, then you've got to accept that that's what you've got to work with. And so it kind of pushes everyone in the same direction. So basically what you know is that we don't know. Content from Gilead, really. Dr. Oz apparently says that there are discussions on extending the ACA subsidies, which isn't going to do anything because, well, if the Donald says he's not going to sign them, it's moot. In an interview on State of the Union, Oz was asked if there were any conversations about extending the subsidies, even on a short-term basis, given that insurance costs will more than double if the new year begins without the subsidies. There are discussions around extending the subsidies if we deal with the fraud, waste, and abuse that right now is paralyzing the system. And again, that is a huge system to go back out and try to go through. Oz said there are also ways to put money in the pockets of Americans, alluding to Trump's suggestion earlier about the direct payments. So, we don't have a lot. But we've got an idea. A lot of this is just repeat, but I wanted to talk about this one here from CNBC. Why the ACA subsidy cliff is a phantom tax and how to avoid it. From Greg Iacurci. The so-called subsidy cliff for the ACA health insurance premiums is about to return in 26. Well, that's an interesting one. House Democrat Sheila Phyllis McCormick charged with stealing $5 million in COVID aid funds while we're sitting here talking about extending COVID-era subsidies. You can't make this stuff up. But there are steps households can take to avoid the cliff and potentially save thousands of dollars on premiums next year, according to financial planners. Before 21, households with incomes at or below 400% of the federal poverty line were eligible for subsidies. Anyone earning more, even $1 or more, was ineligible. Those individuals had to pay the full unsubsidized ACA insurance premium. And by the way, keep in mind that this, I believe, only pertains to what's in the marketplace right now. Although a rise in price in the marketplace can facilitate a rise in price for private insurance as well. But those of you who are getting your insurance through your employer, as far as everything I've read off of this, don't have to worry about any of this. If that is wrong, I will issue a correction. But as far as the way that I've read any of this, I don't believe that is that those of you who are getting it through your work are subject to this. Quest says LASIK is a less regulated corner of healthcare and costs have dove down. Yeah, it was like $2,000 an eye back in 08, 09 when I was talking about that. And I don't think it's that much anymore. I think it's a few hundred. It's one of those phantom taxes that has tremendous impact, said Tommy Lucas, a certified financial planner and enrolled agent at the Moysan Fitzgerald Tamayo, which was number 69 on CNBC's Financial Advisor 100 for 2025. About 1.5 million people, roughly 7% of all ACA enrollees, had incomes over 400% of the poverty line in 24, per the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services. Households at risk of losing the subsidies should do everything to stay as far away from the cliff as possible. You don't want to put your toes on that cliff and play with it. But playing on the cliff is fun. So I think one of the big things as to what to do about the cliff is to stay off of the marketplace. But yeah, I understand. You sometimes need to have insurance. Sometimes you're on a disability where you're not eligible to get employer health care. Sometimes you're in a situation where you work at Taco Bell and you don't really have the option for anything. And sometimes you have the option, but your work insurance sucks. And your partner's employer said that you can't get onto his if you're offered insurance of your own through your employer. So some things to walk about. Or walk about. Some things to talk about. Alright, Education Department. The Education Department is being dismantled. Here's what that means from the Associated Press. The Education Department is breaking off several of its main offices and giving their responsibilities to other federal agencies. An early look at how Trump could fulfill his campaign pledge to close the department entirely. Offices that serve the nation's schools and colleges could go to departments ranging from labor to interior. Education officials say the moves won't affect the money Congress gives states, schools, and colleges. They didn't say whether the current department staff could keep their jobs. Since he took office, Trump has called for dismantling of the Education Department, saying it's been overrun by liberal thinking. Agency's leaders have been making plans to parcel out the operations to other departments, and in July, the Supreme Court upheld mass layoffs that halved the department's staff. In recent days, Linda McMahon has started a public campaign for the end of her department, making the case on social media that education's grant-making and question-answering functions could be better handled by states and other federal agencies. Which, I mean, that's an agreement that I've always had with McMahon, even before McMahon came to the Department of Education, was that it would work way better to get these grants from the individual states that they're working in, rather than trying to come back out and run it through the federal government. Because the state houses have a better idea of what the needs are of their local constituents than one all-powerful, all-knowing federal government. And the idea of an all-powerful, all-knowing federal government scares the crap out of me, by the way. While the necessity of the department is up for debate, it's also unclear how well equipped other state and federal departments are to take over the education department's responsibilities. The department sends billions of dollars to schools and colleges to help decipher complex federal laws. It will be a test for the admin. Can the department shut down smoothly, or will rural and low-income kids and students with disabilities, the populations that most rely on federal education support, be impacted? Again, that should be probably more to the state, because it's a lot easier to go lobby at your state house than it is, especially if you're coming from a place like Wisconsin, Idaho, Wyoming, to get to DC and argue your case. Okay, just a brief definition from the Associated Press, then we got to move on. While American schools are funded primarily by state and local money, the Education Department serves as a conduit for billions of dollars of federal aid going to state and local education agencies. So basically it's just them coming back and propping up places that are underserved because they don't have as big of a tax constituency. Or supposedly their kids are falling behind. Which, and again, I think that competition between schools and districts is possibly a better thing than a lot of my contemporaries and counterparts do. If you want more taxpayers to come into your district, you have to do better. Yes, that's going to hurt for a little while. But we used to be in a situation, and we still are to some point, where we make the decision on where to move based on the school district. Because location A has a way better school district than location B. Let's see. Education officials say money will continue to be awarded as allocated by Congress, but much of it will flow from another federal agency. Most notably, the Department of Labor will oversee some of the largest federal funding streams for schools and colleges, including Title I money for schools serving low-income communities. Adult education programs already were moved to labor in June. So, essentially, the Department of Labor is going to be responsible for trying to raise up the next generation of workers. Another deal will put Health and Human Services in charge of a grant program for parents who are attending college. The State Department will take on money to fund foreign language programs. Interior will oversee programs supporting Native American education. So they have a plan. I don't know that it's going to work out well in the beginning, but I think it's got some legs. Unlike the ACA stuff. Luna C. OF. Surprise, surprise, teachers union president, angered by Trump's effort to dissolve Department of Education, calls it illegal. What are we cursing about, by the way, lunacy? From Josh Q. Nelson. The president of the NEA on Tuesday issued a stern warning about Trump's latest moves to shutter the Department of Education. Trump and his admin chose American Education Week, a time when our nation is celebrating students, public schools, and educators, to announce their illegal plan to further abandon its students by dismantling the Department of Education, NEA President Becky Pringle said in a press release. Yeah, the union that is getting bunches of money from this department probably think it's illegal to shut it down. That actually makes perfect sense. Earlier Tuesday, the Trump admin announced the Education Department signed a series of interagency agreements that shift power from some of its offices and programs to other federal agencies as it works to dismantle the federal department. And we know about all that. No, not the only do they want to starve and steal from our students, they want to rob them of their futures. Nothing is more important than the success of our students, and America's educators and parents will not be silent as Trump and McMahon turn their backs on our students and families and communities to pay for billionaire tax cuts. Okay, but realistically, if you want your students to do better, or if you want to say that the department is making your students do better, then your students actually have to be doing better. And ensuring a brighter future for our children should be a top priority for any admin. But this admin is taking every chance it can to hack away at the very protections and services our students need, she continued just last week. They went to the Supreme Court to avoid feeding families, and they're still pushing to gut health care programs. I'm sorry, what happened to SNAP? Because it sounds to me like a deal got reached and it got put back on and it got refunded again. The department went to the Supreme Court to make sure that they weren't going to get their ass in a bind. For using unallocated funds for SNAP when that would actually be illegal. But yes, that is coming down. From TechCrunch, moving on. Cloudflare blames massive internet outage on latent bug. Yeah, don't buy it. Don't buy that one. On Tuesday morning, a big chunk of the internet went down or was not working properly, including ChatGPT, Claude, Spotify, X, and more, due to an outage in an internet infrastructure giant Cloudflare. That was funny, by the way, because I know the Beanie Boy himself, Tim Pool, was trying to say that it's a direct attack trying to take down all these Republican sites. Grindr was down, which, given the fact of how much of Congress is in the closet, that actually might still be a Republican site. Cloudflare said in its status page around 8 a.m. Eastern Time it had identified the issues and was implementing a fix. Less than 2 hours later, Cloudflare said a fix has been implemented and we believe the incident is now resolved. We are continuing to monitor for errors and ensure that all service is back to normal. So this was not a distributed denial of service attack, but this was a denial of service attack. From what anybody can see now, they're saying that it was a latent bug, but yet we still have a situation where we start to see insanely increased traffic on all these sites at specified specific times, shutting them down and shutting their ports and their proxies down. I remember when Stephen Ignoramus went to the Capitol and streamed from the Capitol and had 20,000 people watching his stream at once, and that was back in the Freedom Scoop days when Jake and I were still working together, which I gotta reach out to him. I want to interview him. No news, just interview Jake for Ed Talk, because he's a fascinating guy. I've talked to him outside of the regular stuff, the business stuff that we did together. He's a fascinating dude, and he's got his fingers in a lot of pots. But we had never ever, because we were a small website, we were a backwater website, we had never ever tested the stress of freedomscoop.com back when it was still freedomscoop.com. And then we turn around and get 20,000 people go and hit the website all at once, and the next thing you know, it had to go back and shut down because the server that it was on could not handle the level of visiting just from that little bit. And it never really came back either. That was the worst part. Maybe Jake and I can get the thing started again. I don't know. That would be cool, actually. The only issue that I have with that is Jake is a lot more conservative than I am, which means that he wants to make this into a Republican thing, and I'm the big anti-government guy. I'm gonna send out a message later today. I'm gonna do that. Because before I went offline on the Boomer book, I did add his wife, and I think that I know she is because she pops up on my Monopoly Go. I bet you I still have a line to them. But yes, they're still saying this was a latent bug, except for the fact that Blue Azure went down and Amazon Web Services went down all within 3 weeks. So Ars Technica saying massive Cloudflare outage was triggered by a file that suddenly doubled in size. I don't buy that crap either, by the way. Quest Vending says 30% of the internet flows through Cloudflare. I'm always shocked how little redundancy most companies use. When a Cloudflare outage disrupted large numbers of websites and online services yesterday, the company initially thought it was hit by a hyperscale DDoS attack. I worry this is the big botnet flexing, Cloudflare co-founder and CEO Matthew Prince wrote in an internal chat room yesterday, while he and others discussed whether Cloudflare was being hit by attacks from the prolific Isuru botnet, but upon further investigation, Cloudflare staff realized the problem had an internal cause. An important file had unexpectedly doubled in size and propagated across the network. The problem that I have with all this is, how did the file double in size? Why? Because I don't buy it, you guys. I don't. Quest Bandit says in grad school I wrote a 25-page paper synopsizing 5 different approaches to identifying and combating DDoS. I would read that, by the way. I've always wanted to learn more about computers and programming. I did BASIC in high school. And now nobody uses BASIC anymore. I think it's Java and C++. But I just, between work and everything else that went along with it, I never got a chance to take another computer class. And then I went on to mechanic school. It's always something that I've been interested in. Always interest, never opportunity. But yeah, I have problems with some of this, and I think some of this is them trying to save face in the midst of all this. Maybe it's just them trying to come out and say, oh yeah, no, nothing bad happened, don't look over here. Damn man, say maybe some Muppet changed a 0 to a 1. Maybe. Alright, what else do we have? Immigration crackdown leaves North Carolina cities on edge. Because yes, we just had a major operation run through Charlotte. This is a live updater, so I'm going to skip this one. From ABC News, the arrest tally grows to 250 in immigration enforcement surge in Charlotte, North Carolina, per the DHS, from Luke Barr, John Hayworth, and Bill Hutchison. A federal immigration crackdown, dubbed Charlotte's Web, has netted 250 arrests in North Carolina's largest city, officials said on Wednesday. The arrest of people allegedly in the country illegally came in a span of just 4 days, officials said. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security and federal agencies continue to target some of the most dangerous criminal illegal aliens as Operation Charlotte's Web progresses. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security said in a statement on Wednesday, the immigration enforcement surge in Charlotte area has led to the arrest of over 250 illegal aliens as of the evening of 11/18. The announcement of the arrest tally in Charlotte came a day after Greg Bovino, the commander-at-large of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, blamed North Carolina Governor Josh Stein for what he said was an increase in violent rhetoric that federal agents are facing in their immigration enforcement blitz in the state. Bovino took to social media Tuesday to slam Stein, a Democrat who released a statement over the weekend asking residents of the Tar Heel state to report any appropriate behavior they witnessed from federal agents. If you see any inappropriate behavior, use your phones to record and notify local law enforcement, who will continue to keep our communities safe and these federal agents after these federal agents leave, Stein said. In a social media post, Bovino told Stein, "You need to check yourself," and cited an online video of a woman threatening to use a screwdriver to stab a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents if they pull her over. So, two sides to this. Now, number one, you should, by the way, I stand with Stein on this one, you should record enforcement agencies and enforcement actions. You should. If the agency has nothing to hide, there should be no objection to this. If there's objection to this, there's probably something to hide. Yes, it may take the element of surprise out of some of these, where ICE is trying to get that because the people who are in this, who they're looking for, do have networks and a lot of other ways to go back and hide from agencies, because they've been doing it forever. So, yes, you should be recording that. And hey, by the way, if you record it, you're going to out some of your sources to get away from this kind of stuff as well. So it serves twofold. It helps make sure that the agency's being honest, and it helps to deter criminal actors from doing criminal things. Double win. Isn't it great? But on the other side of that, no, you can't go around and say you're going to stab a federal agent if they pull you over. Because then you're not supposed to be surprised if you wind up deceased after your shootout with them. I was just explaining this to the oldest one not that long ago. You have the right to defend yourself that comes from God. That's what the Second Amendment is all about. You don't have the right to win, and oftentimes you will not. Most of the time, when you stand up to the government, you're not going to make it back out of that situation alive. But you have the right to try. You have the right to go out standing instead of on your knees. So, a couple different sides to this one, but yes, it looks like they got a massive immigration raid on North Carolina. From Fox News, Charlotte raid targeting criminal illegal immigrants leads to 130 arrests, including MS-13 gang member. Yeah, it goes both directions, Quest. Quest Banding says this entire mess, including misbehavior by ICE, is on the heads of those who let the floodgates open. Yes, that is actually true, and that's yes or no to me. Because the agencies that are coming in and telling their forces to be increasingly aggressive and taking people who aren't vetted and offering to pay big chunks of their student loans, debts, and otherwise, and to give them a huge signing bonus to incentivize them to do this. That's not the way that we go back and do enforcement in this country. In fact, that is a posse. That is a militia. But yes, we wouldn't have a reason to go back down this road if there wasn't as many illegal immigrants in this country who were authorized by past administrations to go back and go after. So to me it goes both ways. It does. Sarah Rumpf-Witten and Adriana James Rodil reporting on this one. Federal agents broadened Trump's immigration crackdown in Charlotte, arresting 130 people in the first 48 hours, including an MS-13 and gang member. According to DHS, among those taken into custody amid Operation Charlotte Swell were 44 criminal illegal aliens, whose criminal records include aggravated assault, assault with a dangerous weapon, assault on police officer, battery, driving under the influence, and hit and run. Among the arrests were 2 known gang members, DHS said. Well, and then of course they have to put MS-13 in here because that makes it extra scary. Because NIMBY America hasn't changed since I was a kid. Gang members are scary. Greg Bovino, commander-at-large spearheading the crackdown, vowed in a social media post that his agents would hit Charlotte like a storm. Footage from the crackdown captured agents fanning across the state in tactical gear and arresting migrants alleged to be in the country illegally. In a joint statement, Charlotte and Mecklenburg County elected officials, including Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyle, slammed the CBP operation, saying they're causing unnecessary fear and uncertainty in our community. Quest says the only reason we aren't all in militias is that former generations of men capitulated their police powers to the government. That's fair. It is critical for all residents to feel secure in our community and know that they can live their lives without being fearful while walking down the street, going to the school, work, or the grocery store. Approximately 20,935 students were absent from school across 185 schools in the district, according to the WBTV. Citing the school officials, the local outlet reported that 31% of the student population are Hispanic. So yeah, a lot of that is going to be fear porn as well. Some Charlotte businesses have remained closed since DHS's immigration crackdown, such as Latino-owned Manolo's Bakery. The bakery closed on Saturday after the owner, Manolo Betancourt, witnessed CBP activity. He wrote in an Instagram post that this was for the first time in 28 years he was shutting down his bakery. Just made me sick, man, he wrote in the post, summarizing an interview he did with Fox 46 Charlotte. Sick to my stomach, I'm an American citizen and I have to carry my passport because of the way I look, the way I talk, and because of my accent. So, that's what's going on there. Let's talk about California for just a bit. CBS News posing the important question. Because of Texas law and a Texas redistricting, well, I can't talk suddenly, we must be closing in on 3 hours here. The Texas redistricting map got struck down by a federal court, which means that the whole thing for Prop 50 in California is moot. What do you want to bet that it still goes forward, though? From Nydia Cavazos, what happens to California's redistricting after Texas congressional maps were struck down in court? Governor Newsom said California's redistricting was in response to Texas' rare mid-decade redistricting push. That doesn't mean California is turning its back after a federal court in Texas blocked the state's recent redrawn congressional maps from going into the effect for the 2026 midterm election. Who's shocked? Who's surprised? Who understood that it wasn't about power? Sorry, it wasn't about response to opposition power. It was just all about power. Tuesday's ruling came weeks after California's formally approved a ballot measure that was introduced to counteract Texas redistricting, but lawmakers removed the trigger language from the ballot measure because, of course, they did. Because now they can just go back and do it at large. Without the trigger language, changes to California's districts are unlikely. Bullshit. I will believe that when I see it. Trump and Abbott played with fire, got burned, and democracy won. Newsom wrote on X Tuesday following the court ruling. This ruling is a win for Texas and for every American who fights for free and fair elections. Trump and, Paul Mitchell, whose firm was hired to draw California's districts, posted on social media that maps will be staying in place. The trigger language was removed in the legislative process as it was clear that Texas was redistricting. So even if their map is invalidated or postponed, the Prop 50 maps stay in place, Mitchell wrote. Told you. I told you. Because it wasn't about Texas. It was all about trying to get their maps changed because they hate the Republicans in their own state. So no, according to Paul Mitchell, who drew the maps, then yes, they are staying in. So, just a reminder on this one, when California state lawmakers had initially introduced their redistricting legislation, it included a trigger clause under which California would only redraw its map in response to a similar move by a Republican state. Under that trigger language, California's redistricting map would become operative only if Texas, Florida, or another state adopts a new congressional district map that takes effect after August 1st, 2025, and before January 1st, 2031, and such redistricting is not required by a federal court order. However, the trigger clause was removed just before California lawmakers voted on the redistricting bills. Without that trigger, it stands now, the Texas ruling does not impact California's redrawn maps. Well, would you look at that? Of course it is. And yes, from the Daily Wire, Trump admin takes legal action against California's race-based gerrymandering. From Cameron Arcand. The DOJ is fighting back against the Democrat-backed congressional maps in California following the overwhelming passage of Prop 50, which would temporarily change the state's maps in the next 3 election cycles. No, there's nothing temporary about it, by the way. That is going to be permanent until such time that more Republicans start winning in the districts again, and they're going to change them to try to make sure that no Republican wins again. And if you think, by the way, that this Prop 50 is going away, you're out of your mind too. First Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Asaley, said the DOJ filed a motion to intervene in the Prop 50 lawsuit. The race-based gerrymandered maps passed by the California legislature are unlawful and unconstitutional. We're moving swiftly to prevent those illegal maps from tainting our upcoming elections, Asaley posted on X. California is free to draw congressional maps, but they may not be drawn based on race. Prop 50 would allow for 5 seats to potentially add to the Democrats' roster in the House, and was done as a direct countermeasure to Texas's Republican-backed mid-decade redistricting efforts earlier this year. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a response. They already had it planned. So, yeah, California's getting redistricted. Another reason to leave the place, by the way. Why would you stay there if you have no representation? Alright, let's talk property tax. And I got just a couple more things to do. Ron DeSantis has dropped a bombshell demanding the complete elimination of property taxes in the United States. And he does so bobbing his head side to side, as he always does.
From the property tax situation. It's very important given how that's pinched so many homeowners, particularly our senior citizens who have their homes paid off and they bought it 30 years ago for a certain amount. Now they're being told it's worth so much more and they have to pony up more and more money. It's almost like they have to pay rent to the government just to be able to enjoy their property. And that's wrong. And we need to do something about it. From the property tax situation. It's very important given how that's pinched so many homeowners, particularly our senior citizens who have their homes paid off and they bought it 30 years ago for a certain amount. Now they're being told it's worth so much more and they have to pony up more and more money. It's almost like they have to pay rent to the government just to be able to enjoy their property. And that's wrong. And we need to do something about it.
That's an understandable idea, and of course that's always property taxes on a state level. Now, the questions are being raised, of course, as to, okay, what do we do about paying for the more roads, more schools, and etc. off of this? So I would like to see the action they plan to take to accommodate for that. I like the idea. I definitely like the idea of, okay, you get out, you're done paying it off, and you actually can just live there. Live there. And like most things, this is an idea without a plan. But on the other end of it, somebody's found a way to make it. Well, they're doing class on this one. you could also argue racism on this one, but Sagar Enchiti says, let me be 100% clear, ending property taxes in Florida, especially as a massive giveaway to the elderly. It is an attempt by the worst generation to pass any and all expenses of living in a society to the young while they get free healthcare and inflation-adjusted free income. Now, the only people who are making class warfare are people like you, who want everyone to be at each other's throats so that, you get jealous and you want more free stuff. You want more of what everybody else has. Vince Dow says, that's just simply false. Younger people own primary homes too. It applies equally. You're just literally arguing like a leftist. A tax cut that applies equally to everyone only helps the rich. Alright. Let's finish out here. From Reuters, implementation of lower U.S. tariffs on Switzerland targeted in coming days. So, Switzerland made a deal. And we can trade a little bit more freely. And get some better price rates going out to them, too. The U.S. and Switzerland are working towards implementing a reduction in U.S. tariffs in Switzerland to 15% from 39% in the coming days, the Swiss government said after it sealed an initial deal last week. On Friday, the Swiss government and the U.S. reached a preliminary agreement to cut the tariffs to 15%, more than 3 months after U.S. President Trump hit Switzerland with the highest import duties in Europe. Swiss Economy Minister Guy Parmelin told Tuesday's edition of the Aargauer Zeitung newspaper that the government expected it would take 10 to 12 working days for the lower tariffs to enter the system, but declined to give a precise date. So like I said at the beginning of this, some of these are going to be trying to work the deal. If I were put in charge of foreign policy and foreign trade, I would get a list of every country in the world and what their tariffs and duties are on every item that we send out to their country, and impose the exact same tariff on any of their items coming into our country. And if you want to lower my duties so you can sell more freely in my country, then you have to lower yours too. I will treat you how you treat us. And it appears that we have got that from Switzerland. So libertarians say that like, it's not a free market if you're tariffing them. It doesn't matter if they're tariffing us. No, that's not a free market. And we finish out with actually a little bit of bad Trump here. Because one of the key things that kept me in somewhat support of him throughout his first and second term was the idea that we weren't getting any new wars. Well, we might be getting one now. Trump signs off on possible CIA operations in Venezuela. I don't know. I've only been studying history for a few years because I found it boring when I was a kid. But in the few years that I've been studying, I've noticed that typically when you do military operations on foreign soil, that foreign country wants to go to war with you. I'm not sure why. It might be something to the fact of, hey, I still have a right to defend myself, but yeah, can we not? Like, pretty please? This comes on the heels, of course, of the blowing up of alleged drug boats. Something else I've also not been a fan of. Quest says, the rich deserve the help since we're the ones who pay the bills. Are the holes in the cheese going to reduce in size too? Maybe. Get more cheese out of it. Yeah, I've always been critical of the idea of the Trump admin blowing the drug boats out of the water. And again, we don't even know if they were drug boats. You don't have to blow up drug smugglers to stop drugs flowing from other countries into our countries and getting onto our streets. All you have to do is end the drug war. Legalize most every form of drug out there so people can either get help to get off the addiction to them or just grow their own in the form of weed. So you don't have to worry if it's coming from another country laced with fentanyl. Trump has given his approval for the CIA to carry out covert operations within Venezuela, the New York Times, a former newspaper, reported on Tuesday. The report comes after the U.S. deployed USS Gerald Ford, America's largest aircraft carrier, to the Caribbean. Citing multiple people briefed on the matter, the Times reported that the covert operations could lay the groundwork for a potentially more broad military campaign. Going to war, folks! The unnamed sources. So, the night janitor further said the back-channel negotiations with Venezuela's government have so far failed to produce results. They say Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro offered to step down after a delay of a couple years, but the Trump admin rejected the offer. Well, of course, because in just a couple of years, there will be no more Trump administration. Look, we do not need to be starting another war, especially one on this hemisphere. Especially when the solution is so simple. I get you're trying to protect your people. I get it. I do. But there are easier ways to do it. If you can grow your own weed, which it's relatively easy to grow, then you don't have to worry about buying it off the streets, laced with fentanyl, and killing yourself or your kids because they found your stash and got into it and got hit with a fentanyl. Alright. That is all the news that I have for the day, so we finish out the day, as we usually do, with things I like and things that I hate, in reverse order, of course. But first, we read the rules of acquisition, the Ferengi rules of acquisition from the fictional universe of Star Trek. Are a series of commandments that govern how Ferengi operate against each other and with other species in the galaxy on business deals. Some of these we can use in our real life, and some of these are just abject commentary on capitalism. I call it the difference between the two. If it comes from the show, I talk about how they used it in the show, and if it comes from a book, I can't do that because I haven't read most Star Trek books. But we read the book, or we read the rule of acquisition, we talk about how it's commentary on capitalism, because Roddenberry was an avowed socialist, or we talk about how we can use it in real life, because even though they were meant to mock capitalism, most of these are actually pretty based and pretty common sense. So, we are on the 135th rule of acquisition. Listen to secrets, but never repeat them. This is from a DS9 novel from Ascendance, which I have not read. But it is an important way to do business as well, because the more you open yourself up and listen to your customers, I know I've been accused of overshare before as well, but the more you do that, the more trust, especially if you don't repeat them, but you never repeat them, your customer seems to think that you've got a special bond in this, and this person will want to come to you and spend more money. So, and on top of that, if you know things about the person, I mean, that's how we got the Epstein thing. That's where the commentary comes in. You can either use it as a trust-building exercise or use it to blackmail your customer, whichever one applies. So, both an actual rule and a commentary rolled into one. Let's look at a couple things that I hate today. This. We're having a big conversation right now where a lot of quote, right-wing influencers are saying that they might want to leave the party because of anti-Semitism and how horrible it is, which it is horrifying. And I understand that, and I agree with that aspect of it. But then we have people, sometimes I think are Democrat operatives, posing as Republicans to try to make sure that the America that we are in believes that Christianity is all about racism. Now, this is religious in nature, according to the signs. They're not talking about Arabs in general. They're talking about Islam and the caliphates. But I know that a lot of people who pushed into this idea believe that anybody of the Middle Eastern of Middle Eastern extraction is also a rabid Islamist who might fly an airplane into your building. So yes, they're going back and doing this over at the college campus, and we don't need this kind of crap. You guys, if these actually are young Republicans, then no, there's no necessary need for this. Keep vigilant, of course. If you see something, say something. But the truth is that most Muslims in the world are not out to go back and commit a terrorist act. Let's watch.
Jesus Christ is King of Dearborn, Michigan. Jesus Christ is King of Dearborn, Michigan. Pick up your crosses and walk, America. Do not be asleep. Wake up before the giant of Islam crushes you. Let's roll. Let's rock and roll. Let's start our march. Jesus Christ is King of Dearborn, Michigan.
Alright, 4chan, do your thing. I know that you agree mostly with these guys, but let's make sure that we know who they are, because they didn't mask up this time, so I'm sure that somebody can go find their social media profile and tell us if they're actually right-wing agitators or if they are left-wing agitators. I definitely think that this person is legit off of this. Sandra, 9006. Hey, buddy, loving this game. We're playing a game, you guys. It'd be awesome to team up and play together sometime. If you're down, add me on Discord. Should we add this person on Discord? What do you think? I bet you it's legit. It's gotta be legit. Sandra 9006 wouldn't lie to us, right? Wouldn't try to bot or anything else like that? Take 5 minutes. Think about what you've done. Quest Fanning says, yesterday Austin Peterson pointed out that the map with 39 new mosques in Texas presented no evidence and that he couldn't find anything to verify or deny their existence. Yeah, there's a bunch of that too. So that's fun. All right, from Newsweek. Mortgage market to be reshaped by new credit score requirements. I'm going to TLDR this one because, well, I read it already. Essentially, they are Freddie Mac is eliminating credit score requirements entirely at this point and looking more into the fact of more recent creditworthiness things like on-time payments, rent payments, things like that. Because there are supposedly too many people out there who are getting denied the ability to buy a home, which means that they're not getting as many customers as they would like. Not because they can't afford it, which in most cases they can't, but simply because the credit requirements are too onerous. Guys, we've played this game before. We've done this before. Yes, on paper, the last, I would say, 10 years of my life would point to creditworthiness, ability to buy a house. But yes, I understand the fact that it's probably still a bit of a risk because of what was happening to me when I lived in Kenosha and how deep into the bottom of the barrel I was. But making it possible for me to get a mortgage with a 530 credit score was probably not going to help anybody, in spite of the fact that it would have helped me. Because there are just as many people out there with that same credit score who are going to wind up on a default on something like this. We did this in the 90s. Do you know what happened? We had a housing crash. I don't know if your goal or your aim right now is to go back and try to make another housing bubble crash and force more people out of their homes to reshift the wealth out to other people, but that tanked our economy for years on end, you guys. We have done this before. You morons. You want to buy a house and you've got less than stellar credit worthiness, then do what I did and work on it. Their defense of this, of course, is the fact that this just means that people with 619 credit scores can't buy a house. Okay. I couldn't do it when I had a 619 either. And furthermore, and this is my big thing, we're trying to get our housing prices fixed. What do you think is going to happen when you flood another 2 to 3 million people into the same market, bidding on the same houses? And also still trying to compete against Blackstone. I mean, for people like me, it'll be freaking great because the value of my house will go up. It already is going up based on the fact of we got another subdivision popping up in my town with the staked out plan for yet another one out there. And the first one isn't even filled. So we're going to have 3 new subdivisions in this town, which means people want to move here. Which means more equity in my house. To go do things like add more square footage to my house. But yeah, for the rest of us, and with the fact that it's people competing over our houses, yes, that's all that's going to do is put it out of reach for more millennials. That's all you're going to do. I didn't even read this article because, you know what? I don't care. This isn't mostly an advertisement just for Daily Wire stuff, but we don't need a woke-free gift guide for 2025. Think about the person you're buying a gift for and get something for them. Don't worry about being woke or supporting woke companies. It's not about you and your ideals. It's about the person you're giving a gift to. Seriously. Another one from The Wire, Hakeem Jeffries could face Gen Z socialist challenger and his allies aren't thrilled. Because yes, again, you have pushed the left so far to the left that they're trying to pop out rank and file people to try to push their agenda. I am going to read a little bit of this one. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is likely to face a primary challenge in his Brooklyn-based district from New York City Councilman Shi Ose, who describes himself as a socialist. Emboldened by Mamdani's win, of course. The primary challenge is one of the first political ripple effects from Democrat Mamdani's win in New York's mayoral race, but it's also a shining light on discontent from the far left over how to best tackle the Trump admin and the Republican majority Congress. If it wasn't for the fact that we, the rest of us, have to go back and face down the ripple effect from these socialist policies, I would say, good, you get what you deserve. But the rest of us have to live with these idiots, so. Quest says, I thought the rating agencies were using normal daily short-term payments to boost scores for those with low scores. They are, by the way. That's how I got into this house. My dad had a score of 820, mine's still below 800. I don't think I was ever north of 760. I've never been north of 700, so I'm working on that. Actually, now that I've gotten some payments into this house, I had a temporary drop when I had to go buy a new truck because a deer took out my other one. But it only lasted for like a month. And now I'm back up to... I made up the ground that I didn't get a huge jump up off of it, but I did make up some ground off of it. I think I could be in the 700s before 2030. I think that's entirely possible. A couple other things that I hate. Then we'll do I got 3 things on things that I like. Boys are now caught under the spell of predatory algorithms. This is from Donna Rice Hughes. This is an op-ed from the Daily Wire. The opinions expressed in this op-ed are the opinions of the writer, not necessarily the views of the Daily Wire, Contemporary, J. Edgar, or your host. I'm sorry, I am your host, J. Edgar. But it is apt. I've read some of this here. As Americans, we like to think our boys are tough and resilient, but online, they're the most vulnerable and the most overlooked. The internet has become a digital trap for millions of young men and boys. The addictive features programmed into smartphones, social media, video games, and online porn are intentionally designed to hook kids at an early age. Yes, this is all true. And yes, it is meant to make them not want to be out in the world, experiencing the world, and more in and alone. Boys are now spending significant amounts of time gaming, scrolling, and chatting on online platforms that were never built for their safety. In the aftermath of Kirk's assassination by suspected shooter Tyler Robinson, a Wall Street Journal columnist astutely noted, political violence is a problem, but so is the atomized culture in which young men retreat into confused inner worlds and virtual realities, which can be addictive and destructive as any drug. Across America, young men are drifting into digital isolation, where algorithms, porn, sexual predators, and toxic role models, not parents or mentors, manipulate their mindsets and attitudes and ultimately shape who they become. Those algorithms are now even more powerful. A Common Sense Media survey revealed that algorithms, not user intent, are the primary driver of boys' exposure to posts about masculinity. 68% of boys who see such material online say it started showing up in their feed without them searching for it. Yeah. It showed up in my feed for a little bit because of some of my friends who are into that kind of thing. I would suggest or suspect based on the algorithms. But what I look at when I look at some of this is yes. And some of this is an attempt to try to keep us at each other's throats again. You know, the toxic masculinity and the masculinity stuff trying to keep men and women in a constant state of sexual tension, sexual frustration, and sexual fighting. Because a united society doesn't look to the government for help. And some of this it comes down to money too. I would absolutely 100% come out and say the fact that it comes down to money. I mean, I never really, and part of it's from moving too, but I never really had a safety net where I live. Now with Palm being involved, I am starting to get some of that and starting to branch myself out into more of a community mindset. I'm meeting more people around the town that we live in, talking to more people at that point. But yeah, a big part of the problem that I had when I lived in Kenosha was the fact that I did have a small safety net of people who were introduced to me by my cousin, who became like a small family to me, I will honestly admit, and I miss a lot of them terribly. I very much do. But a lot of it came out to be where I started to move into online circles and finding that kind of stuff. The fact that I didn't really have the money or ability to go out Because, you know, you go to a bar to talk to people, but you can't afford the drinks, so what the hell do you do? So yes, the algo is trying to fuel the male loneliness thing. Palm says, are we talking about male loneliness? Yes, we are. And what's making it? Because it's not just them evil women that are driving the male loneliness epidemic. There are people who are looking to capitalize on that are also driving it as well. Damned Man says, I don't know, maybe try not making the world toxic to young men. Well, I've never taken up that the MRA stance on that, but I also see where some of that is coming from. A couple more things that I hate. Will mass deportations fix the housing market? That is a yes and a no. Again, I've always said, and I've said since we started talking about this, yes, if you start deporting the illegal immigrants out of this country, you're going to see housing prices and rent prices go down substantially because 11 million people are competing for the same houses, whether they're being rented from private equity firms or apartments as well, with people who are living there. And yeah, if you don't have people ready to go back and take on the houses that Blackstone owns, then it's not a profitable venture for them anymore. But the other end of that is if you drop the housing prices too far, the rest of us who are looking to get equity in this are going to sit here and start to feel the pinch based on the fact of, oh, hey, I can't go refinance my house to get a lower payment because of the lower interest. Because the house I paid $300,000 for is now only worth $120,000. So doing it all at once, yes, is going to help the housing market, but it is going to come with its own host of problems. You have to balance it somehow. Or face another housing bubble pop like we had circa 2008. Alright, couple more. Then we'll move on to happy stuff, things I like. El Gato Malo says, I'm honestly baffled. Are there seriously people who think the 1990 version is better looking? It's awful, unpleasant mix of busy and frumpy. The 2024 version is clean and pleasant. Not even a question that it's a huge improvement. And those of you who are my age will recognize, of course, the fact that they are talking about the interior remodel of the Home Alone house. Which I'm not 100% surprised by either, given the fact that the people who currently own it, from what I understand, hate the fact that people want to come back and visit the Home Alone house. So I would be not surprised in the least that they tried to make it look as little like the Home Alone house as they possibly can. Now, there are two ways to go and do with this, because I do think that the Home Alone house aesthetic is busy, overdone, and very, very materialistic. But I'm looking down at the sanitized, rounded edges version that they put back up on the remodel in 2024 with the all white and saying, no, I hate that too, actually. I really do. I would, if I had the opportunity to go back and do this, I don't know that I would go with the loud wallpaper. I think I would still go with a major solid color and probably neutral, especially given the exterior aesthetic of that house, which still looks like it does in Home Alone and Home Alone 2. The white would definitely not be it for me. And there would be a lot more wood and trim. I mean, there'd be trim around that door arch, I can tell you that. Just like there was in the Home Alone house version. I mean, we've been having the talk in our house too. You can't see it because of the way that the window angle is, and I don't want you to be able to pinpoint me by using cloud patterns out my window, but yeah, every window and door in this house has an actual, looks like reclaimed barn wood from the pattern and the grain that you can still see through the paint. but it's all painted over in white, and I want to take all this down and make it natural wood color. I like different colors on all the walls in all the houses too, because with the exception of our bedroom, every wall in this house is white. With sanitized white trim. What they did with the reclaimed wood is a crime, by the way. And I hope that I can sand it all back out and make it look better. And get the original wood back into it. Every cabinet is white. So, yes, I am 100% somewhere in between the two. I would not do the 90, and a lot of people are criticizing, again, the 1990s because it's Gen X trying to go back and reclaim their youth and trying to go back into everything, complaining about the fact that they did the remodel. There is an avenue of that, but there's also an avenue of the fact that just this sanitized, white, angular, rounded edges is bleh. It looks like an Apple commercial on the bottom. It's what it looks like. Admin Reality says G. Palm says, I like the late 1800s Victorian houses. I do too, actually. There's one of those in town here, but I don't think it's ever going to go on the market. Alright, and the last one on things that I hate. John Oberg says, we're living in a new era of food. Steaks made from plants. Technically all steaks are made from plants because cows are herbivores. Steers are herbivores. The reasons to continue eating meat are decreasing by the minute. And yet, no, they're not. If God didn't intend for us to eat a cow, he wouldn't have made them taste so good. Alright, let's do a couple things that I like, and then we'll be done. Then I'm going to go clean some stuff. So, number one, thing that I like today. We were doing some listening, and this popped up in a feed after listening to the Psycho Stick Classic, I Can Only Count to 4, last night. If you've not listened to that, by the way, it's hilarious. If you haven't listened to that, where the hell have you been for the last 15 years? Because it's hilarious. But the next thing in my feed, even though none of it would stay right, or I'm sorry, for whatever reason, yeah, YouTube, I don't know if it was just this channel or all of YouTube, but it would not load any of this guy's videos, because I was going to play them for Palm and Small Human, and none of them would load past the opening. But this is Frog Leap Studios, who is a heavy metal singer who makes most of his... And I don't think he's been active for a year. But it's Frog Leap Studios over on YouTube. It's at Leo Lego is the channel name, or the extension on YouTube if you want to go back and look at that. But this guy, you know, when I was a kid, I was told that everybody who loves heavy metal is just creepy and gothic and all serious and all black and everything else and dark mood. And like most of the goth people I've ever met in my life are just complete goofballs who don't take themselves seriously. And this guy is no different off of this. So we're going to listen to his introduction to himself, and I'm going to listen to a short snippet of one of the songs that he put out, because I don't think we can do the full thing without running afoul of copyright. So I think I can get away with maybe a minute or two of one of the songs that I want to do, but let's listen to Leo introduce himself first.
Hi everybody, this is Leo from Frog Leap Studios. I'm from Norway and I run this YouTube channel where I do music covers spanning from acoustic to metal. I record, mix, master, shoot and edit these videos all by myself. If you like what you hear /see, please subscribe to my channel. I also have this Patreon site where you can support me to continue making these videos. Here you can choose how much you want to support me by per video, and you can get cool benefits like free downloads of songs and other goodies. I just want to say thanks to everybody out there for giving great feedback and sharing my stuff, and also buying my songs on iTunes and so on. If you want to support me in any way, just follow the links in the video description. Thanks, guys!
And yeah, if you just the beginning of the one that we're gonna look or listen to here, you just kind of watch the mannerisms of the guy. Yeah, he's not the goth people that my parents warned me about. He is a full-out goofball, and it's very entertaining to watch. And even though we're gonna only listen to a minute of this or so, you should go back and check out Frog Leap Studios and listen to the whole thing.
Hey Mary, show me that riff.
Okay.
South of the river, you stop and you hold everything. A band is blowing Dixie, double for time. You feel alright when you hear that music ring.
Well, now you step inside, but you don't see too many faces.
Yeah, I gotta cut it at that point, otherwise, yeah, copyright and such. Probably are gonna get dinged for that, but yeah, definitely go check that out. Maybe we'll get the guy to make more covers, because, yeah, if I go back one, let's go see when the last one that he did was.
Hi,
last
everybody.
video. Yeah. Last was a cover of Ready to Go from Republica, the classic 90s one, and he did that a year ago. Let's see, Sweet Home Alabama is on there. Footloose, he did one of. Bulls on Parade, which is already metal. I don't know how you make that more metal. Cruel Summer, I don't know if it's the Bananarama one or the Taylor Swift one, because I haven't listened to that one yet. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on there. Definitely go back and, oops, I did it again. And there he is in the wig. So, Frog Leap Studios, go check that out. A couple other things that I like. From Fox Business. Apparently trying to use the poll that looks like the Dow just dumped out this morning after its big rise. Wonder what caused that. I'll be looking at that off camera. Trump, one of McDonald's all-time most loyal customers, offers Filet-O-Fish suggestion. What is the suggestion? Trump gave McDonald's leadership a not-so-subtle hint at how the massive chain could improve the iconic Filet-O-Fish. I like the fish. I like it. You could do a little bit more tartar sauce, so please. Now, I myself cannot eat tartar sauce for obvious reasons. But just the guy coming out here and playing into the meme of him just scarfing down McDonald's all the time doesn't take himself, again, too seriously. I've had a lot of criticisms of Trump over the years, but I've never been able to come out and say he just takes himself too seriously. He can come back in, he can work into the meme, And he can play the crowd, so. Especially when he went back and did the fry cook thing. And in spite of the fact that I gave criticism earlier of the fact that we might be going to war in Venezuela over this. Last one for the day from the Daily Wire. Trump just beat the last 3 presidents on one key issue. And what is that key issue? What is that key issue? It's how the hell do we get to noon? Trump just beat the last 3 presidents on one key issue, and that is foreign policy. CNN data guru Harry Enton said on Wednesday that Trump was blowing his competition out of the water, both Republicans and Democrats, when it came to his approval rating with regard to foreign policy. Let's listen.
This is one of the areas in which Donald Trump is performing significantly better than he was in term 1. One of his best issues relative to term 1. What are we talking about? Approval of Trump on foreign policy at this point in term 1. Look, Donald Trump was just at a 35% approval rating. Up like a rocket. We're talking about 43% now. That's an 8-point rise. On the net approval rating, we're talking about a double-digit rise. The American people like much more of what they're seeing from Donald Trump in foreign policy in term 2 than they did in term number 1.
So often presidents in their second term, usually later in their second term, frankly, will turn to foreign policy. So how does President Trump compare to past presidents in their second term?
You know, this to me is one of the most interesting data points, because normally when we look at these data points, we see that Trump is doing worse than other presidents. But on this one, he is doing significantly better, because take a look here. All right, 21st century foreign policy approval rating at this point in term 2. George W. Bush was down at 36%. Barack Obama was at 37%. Look at this. Donald Trump actually leads the pack at 43%. Donald Trump has a higher foreign policy approval rating at this point in a second term than any other president who served their entire second term in the 21st century. This is something I think Donald Trump really likes to look at, because the bottom line is this: presidents like to build their legacies off of foreign policy, and at this particular point, the American people like much more of what Donald Trump's doing on foreign policy than either of the 2 other 21st century presidents who served served 2 terms. Good.
So, and yeah, they're leaving Biden out of this here because he completely destabilized Southeast Europe. And yeah, it's just been a mess. But of course he's going to be above Obama and Bush on foreign policy, because Obama used drone warfare. In fact, he is the Nobel Peace Prize winner who's dropped the most bombs in history. And Bush, everybody knows what we all think about Bush. Because I think that my sentiment is probably the popular one, which just scares the crap out of me. But, anyway, that's the end of it. That's all that I have, you guys. We're done. We're over. It's lunchtime. It's clean the garage time, too, I think. I don't know. I got to double check what we have on the rest of the schedule for the day. But, yeah, it is, we're going to do something around here. See if we can get going. But, yeah, it's time to head out of here. So, that means outro music, which I can also do from my handy little panel. All right, well, with that, the show is done. We've talked about Epstein, we've talked about the ACA, we've talked about California and the Department of Education, we've talked about Leo Moriacelli. We've talked about a bunch of things that I hate and some things that I like, and how much better Trump is on one thing than Bush. I guess he's better on spending too, even though I'm against him because of his spending. But with that, we're out of here. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. It's going to be a great time, and I go back to work tomorrow, so you guys can enjoy your weekend. I enjoy my week on work, but have fun, be good, take care of yourselves, love one another, be excellent to one another, and don't get too bogged down in the clean white corners and interior remodel of all white, all sterile, all everything else. And, as always, be good, be kind, be wonderful. I'll see you here next time with more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.